nanotechnology with 3D printing. We're building an automated system that enables scientists to rapidly test and manufacture nanodrugs. Nanodrugs are nanoparticles encapsulating drug molecules for precise and targeted drug delivery. Current tools for nanodrug prototyping just don't cut it. They are either very hard to use or too expensive for early stage drug development. Right now we have a prototype that's being used by 4 research collaborators at the University of Southern California, and we are currently looking for our first round of investment to help us build our MVP and scale up production.
Hi, my name is William Colton. I'm the co-founder, CSO, and inventor behind Paldera Pharmaceuticals, and we develop novel antimicrobial therapeutics to treat some of the most common and pervasive bacterial infections in hospital systems. Catheter-associated urinary tract infections are the #1 hospital-acquired infection in the United States, as reported by the Center for Disease Control, and can lead to prolonged stay and hospital oversight when contracted, including ICU visits and progressions to even more life-threatening conditions like sepsis. This leads to 13,000 deaths annually and puts a $1.7 billion economic burden annually on the healthcare industry and healthcare market.
Hello everyone, I'm Juniali and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Photonnect.
Hello, I'm Sushant. I'm also a co-founder and CTO at Photonnect. At Photonnect, we are developing laser adhesion techniques to connect optical fibers to photonic chips.
Data centers are one of the biggest consumers of energy. We started this venture to make them more efficient and to reduce the global carbon emissions.
The laser technique is dramatically faster, less expensive, and more efficient than the conventional glue methods. This is a package device, and we are Photonnect. Thank you.
Pike Robotics was spun out of UT's Nuclear and Applied Robotics Group and originally funded by Phillips 66 to help with the real need they had for maintaining their product storage and refining facilities. There are an estimated 180,000 petrochemical storage tanks across the globe which use floating roofs that sit atop liquid fuel. The roof seals require regular inspection to ensure they are effectively reducing fugitive emissions. There are significant safety concerns associated with the current inspection process using human crews in confined spaces, along with the financial operating loss due to tank downtime. To address these problems, we are developing a next-gen robotic solution for in-service inspection of floating roof storage tanks. Our alternative to manned entry inspections uses an explosion-proof wall-climbing robot which inspects the seal using visual and physical detection methods. This approach increases safety of personnel, reduces operational issues associated with confined space permits and tank downtime, and accurately quantifies previously subjective inspection results. Using our system also makes the seal inspection process simpler and less costly to tank owner operators. The ability to monitor a large source of fugitive emissions also allows Pike to play an important role in cleaning up our environment, while at the same time improving the environmental, social, and governance scores of many companies in the energy space. We're excited to have the opportunity to apply for this competition, building on the momentum of our latest victories at the John Brumley Texas Venture Labs competition last May.
Tuberculosis, or TB, is endemic in many parts of the world, with an estimated 1.8 billion infected globally. In recent years, TB has left us with annual death tolls that are comparable to the COVID-19 pandemic, but global attention has shifted away from TB, leading to an increase in annual deaths not seen in a decade of the global TB eradication effort. Smear microscopy is the main method of detection for TB in these high-burden, low-income countries in sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia because it is rapid and low cost. But we can quickly see how this method becomes inefficient, inconsistent, and wasteful reagents when performed manually. This is a major setback in the TB diagnostic pipeline, especially in point-of-care settings in low-resource areas where circumstances for testing are much more dire. To address this demand for adequate testing, we've developed POCUS TB, a point-of-care automated system for TB diagnostics comprised of the POCUS TB stainer and smartphone microscope. Our business model reflects the great need for testing in low-resource areas, ensuring one-time purchase of our staining and microscopy platforms and accessible and low-cost supplies of reagents. The ASU IO prize money and mentorship would greatly support our team's efforts in achieving the World Health Organization's 2035 goal of global TB eradication, one smear at a time.
Hi everyone, my name is Morgan, and I'm one of the co-founders of TILO, a company developing the first significant innovation to the rollator walker in over 40 years. Millions currently rely on rollator walkers to stay mobile, but the device is actually heavily associated with falls, a global health crisis that costs our healthcare system over $50 billion every year. Current designs shift users' weight onto a set of wheels that can easily shoot out from under them, leading to falls, improper posture, and poor walking habits. At TILO, we're tackling 3 core areas of innovation: safety, stigma, and strengthening. Our patent-pending reverse frame puts the user at its center, with back support for more stability, while also opening users up to the world, so they are seen first, not the rollator. By passively measuring speed, distance, and reliance, we provide quantified metrics and visualizations through a mobile application. This allows users to track their activity, set goals, monitor progress, and enhance physical therapy both in the clinic and at home. At TILO, we give our users a device that allows them to get out and live their active, independent lifestyles like the badasses we know they are.
Hello, we're Toxisense, and we're using genetic engineering to develop more sustainable and cost-effective tests for bacterial contamination. Every person, including you and I, relies on one animal, the horseshoe crab. Horseshoe crab blood is used to test for endotoxins, which are the sickness-causing molecule from bacteria. Because they result in fever, sepsis, and even death, all medical products and drinking water must be tested for these toxins to ensure the safety of users. The horseshoe crab blood-based method is effective, but it has 2 major problems. It's expensive and it's unsustainable. Toxins developed a more sustainable and cost-effective solution by genetically engineering this plant to luminesce at different intensities based on the amount of endotoxin in a sample applied to it. It's just 5% of the cost of the current method and comes without any environmental damage. Our team combines a strong background in business and the life sciences, and with our partners and advisors, we are confident we can bring this technology to reality. We received substantial traction from companies like AstraZeneca and J&J, and received substantial funding through competitions like the Warden Startup Challenge, over $100,000 just last year in total. We're excited to continue building this and excited to present at the ASU Innovation Open.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 7th annual ASU Innovation Open. I'm Tristan Gandolfi, Vice President of Programs for Phoenix-based nonprofit SeatSpot, a social impact accelerator. I also happen to be a former Sun Devil, but today I have the honor of being your co-host.
And hi everyone, I'll be serving as Tristan's partner in crime and co-host today. My name is Bianca Puliga, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Arizona Technology Council. And I also happen to be an alumna of the Thunderbird School of Global Management at ASU.
We're reporting to you from our home offices in Tempe, Arizona, where it's a beautiful 76 degrees and sunny. I am so excited to be back at the Innovation Open Award Show.
You know, this is actually my first time at the ASU I/O, but I can't believe what I've been missing out on. Tristan, why didn't you tell me about this sooner? And what can I expect to see today on Zoom?
I'm glad you asked. We have the top 25 teams from 18 different schools across the globe at ASU, and they've been pitching their groundbreaking products to judges all morning. To help them achieve their missions, the ASU I/O has over $200,000 in cash money up for grabs today.
Wait, did you say they're here, like in real life at ASU? I am so not prepared for this. Does that mean I need to change out of my sweatpants?
Yeah, can you believe it? We're finally back in person.
Well, there appears to be a slight problem. I'm just a little confused. If we're doing this in real life, shouldn't we be there with them right now?
Shoot, you're totally right. I guess I'm a little rusty after the past 2 years. We need to get to campus stat.
Okay, I guess we'll see you in a minute.
All right, hang tight. We'll be right there.
Pardon me. Excuse me, pardon me.
There we go.
Come on, see?
Hi.
We found you.
Welcome, everybody. Hope you like my dog. Her name is Rosita. She will not be here today. I'm so sorry.
Bummer.
I know. You're starting to kind of get how today is going to work. I heard a little bit of clapping. We're going to need some more participation as the day goes on. So let's try this again. From our very, very, very talented, brilliant student teams from across the globe, can I get a round of applause?
Let's do it!
Thank you. And for some of you who are not students of ASU, you probably don't know who this very handsome character is. Can I introduce you, everybody? This is Sparky. So when you see Sparky, you
Clap, clap, clap. You got it.
It's probably Sparky's fault that you forgot to clap, right? Definitely Sparky's fault. Should we try that again? All right, get out of here. Get out of here. All right, let's kick off the event and get this party started.
Oh, hey, T, it's been way too long, and I honestly kind of forgot how short you are in person.
Yeah, man, genetics. All right, it's nice to see you too. Well, it's great to be here with all of you more than anything. It's a big week here in Arizona for those of you who are not our residents. We have a ton of amazing and huge events, from the tortilla frisbee contest, known as the Waste Management Open.
That's right.
To Rihanna's performance on Sunday.
All that matters.
But most importantly, we have today the ASU I.O. with our local celebrity, Sparky the Sun Devil. We have teams joining us from Canada. Anybody here from Canada? Can I get an A? They don't love Canada. Anyway, okay. And then from Texas.
Howdy.
Howdy? Okay, yeah, okay, great. And to our neighbors in California. I'm so glad that not everyone from California moved to Arizona over the past 2 years.
Called out.
It's really great to see some of you here today. Well, we even have a team joining us virtually from Palestine on a live stream. So some of us today are watching at www.asu.io. Can we get a round of applause for our global team?
That's right. Tristan, let me just say, the outfit is amazing. You're looking good. And we'd love to give a big thank you to all of the teams who are participating this year. We've got several of them in the room right now. We are so happy to have you here today to celebrate you and see your ideas grow. This event truly would not be possible without your talent or your perseverance.
Speaking of people responsible for the success of today's ASU I.O., I want to take a second to thank those who provided funding. I think we're most excited about that.
Yeah.
And mentorship opportunities today.
Good too.
Thank you to our amazing sponsors, eSeed, Challenge, the Ira A. Fulton School of Engineering, Intel, Avnet, and the Arizona Board of Regents. Can't forget, most importantly, Source Global.
Oh yeah, please. Don't stop on my account. The ASU I.O. competition is designed to challenge and advance university student innovators who aim to develop tangible technology solutions. By showcasing ideas from college students around the world, shout out to Canada and Palestine again, and providing them with mentorship and funding, we hope to empower the next generation of problem solvers.
So the teams here today represent a wide variety of cutting-edge industries, from climate tech to medical devices, and all the way to Internet of Things. All solutions today have a focus on conscious capitalism. To those watching from home, please follow and engage with the show through our YouTube and even Twitter. You can use the hashtag WinASUIO to give questions as we go on through today's program. Go ahead. No.
Please.
I was
Okay.
sorry. Got excited.
We also want to take this opportunity to thank all of the wonderful judges, mentors, and audience members who are applauding and who have volunteered their time to make this event possible for you all today.
All right, I got excited. I wanted to talk about the schedule before it was my
Stole my thunder.
time. So here we go. Today's show schedule. We're going to have a jam-packed show filled to the brim with a variety of distinguished speakers and panelists. We will be joined by past ASU I.O. winners. They're real, they're here, who will share a few lessons learned along with a segment called Between Two Founders. Then we'll take a look behind the scenes at what investors are truly looking for with a live pitch event. And next, we'll have an exciting keynote discussion with Joy Seitz, CEO of American Solar and Roofing. And after all these amazing humans impart their wisdom with us, we'll have an opportunity to finally hand out that $200,000 in awards and provide an opportunity for you, the audience, to chat with the teams.
Well, then let's just go ahead and dive right in. To start, Tristan already teased this a little bit, but someone special couldn't be here today. Sparky's filling in. But they did send along a message for us all to listen to. Michael Crow became the 16th president of ASU in July 2002 and has spearheaded ASU's evolution into one of the world's best public metropolitan research universities. Please enjoy this welcome from ASU President Michael Crow.
Hi, Michael Crow here, President of Arizona State University. I want to welcome all of you to the ASU Innovation Open. This is really at the heart and the spirit of us at ASU. We're a big, comprehensive 80,000 students on campus from 158 countries in all 50 states, 90,000 students in the most advanced Star Trek level online degrees that the world has ever seen developed, coming together for our 170,000 students in our degree programs overall. High rates of innovation, high rates of change, dozens and dozens and dozens of ed tech and learning tech companies that we're incubating inside ASU, hundreds of technologies that we've advanced outside into the market beyond ASU, hundreds of learning technology and educational technology companies that we're working with at the boundaries of ASU, and basically we've constructed ourselves as America's most innovative university in the following sense. We innovate to be able to be egalitarian and diverse. We innovate to be able to be scaled. We innovate to be able to accelerate outcomes. We innovate to be able to lower costs. And so the spirit of innovation is really, really important to us. And all of you coming in from, I guess I'm looking at the list here, Penn, MIT, USC, Michigan, UCLA, Northwestern, and all the other great centers for learning and innovation at American universities. It just really is a fantastic time to come together to see you all innovate, to allow you to compete in your innovations against each other, to allow that process to become informative, not only to all of you, but to everybody that's watching what you're doing, as well as informative to us at ASU as we strive to be of greater service to our country, as we strive to be of greater service to our students and to their families, as we strive to be ever more and always focused on how we can be continuously innovating. So again, welcome to the ASU Innovation Open, and best of luck to all of you.
Michael Crow truly has been such a transformative leader for ASU, and he's a big reason we're actually here today. ASU is home to the nation's largest producer of engineering and technology talent, the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering. With more than 30,000 students enrolled, the Fulton Schools is one of the most comprehensive engineering schools in the country, with 48 graduate programs and 25 undergraduate degree options. And we have the leader of that school with us here today. Please welcome to the stage ASU's Vice Dean of Engineering, Computing, and Technology and Dean of Fulton Schools, Kyle Squires.
Thank you. Thanks, and thanks for the invitation to come and just make a couple quick remarks. First, to the student teams, congratulations. We're happy to have you here. This, as President Crow just alluded to, this is kind of within our fabric. That is entrepreneurship, innovative thinking, and what we want to be able to do and move forward, not just as a university, but also as a college of engineering. So thank you. Know that you are welcome here. Now, you have picked an interesting week to be here. We do think about scheduling, and we think about, there's that golf tournament at North Phoenix. I think there's a football game on Sunday. So the eyes of the country are on Phoenix, today. But they're on Phoenix because of this, the Innovation Open. We want to continue to elevate and push and elevate this to the very pinnacle of what student entrepreneurship means and looks like and can be. So please know, again, you're welcome. We're very impressed. We have seen this every single year of the Innovation Open. The caliber of the ideas, the ventures, the pitches keeps getting better and better and better. No different this year. Really impressive. Lastly, as I pass the microphone on, also want to thank the judges. Thanks for your investment of time, your hard questions. No matter the outcome for a given team, it's going to improve them, improve what they do. Thank you also for all of the faculty, staff at ASU involved in student entrepreneurship. It matters. You heard it, thanks for our sponsors. These things don't happen without great partners. We're very, very grateful to our sponsors and want to thank you for all of that. So in closing, very glad you're here. Take advantage of this tremendous place that you find yourself in, not just today, but over the week. And with that, even though we got people here from all over the country, in closing, go Devils. Thank you.
What are you doing,
Well,
Dee?
Bianca, when I was on campus like 20 years ago, I used to give campus tours. That's how I did it. I would walk backwards and steer people with my hands. And as a result, I have a ton of ridiculous and probably useless facts just stored in my noggin. For example, did you know that there was a time capsule over there from the 80s? Those of you from ASU, did you guys know this? Inside is like a Mrs. Fields cookie, which don't eat, a Converse high top. So while I was giving campus tours, I knew that ASU was basically incubating some kind of bacteria, thanks to Mrs. Fields' cookies. Little did I know that 20 years later, we would be impacting and incubating social change. It's an amazing moment for me as an alum to stand here with you and see how far the campus has come. Now, I want to tell you that beyond cookies, we have been able to incubate 200 startups here at ASU, including we have SkySong Innovation startups that have raised over $1.2 billion in external funding. We have generated more than $2 billion in economic output in Arizona alone. And again, we want to thank Dean Squires and the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering at large for supporting this event today. Our teams are helping foster an environment where entrepreneurship, technical innovation can truly thrive.
Someone understood the clapping assignment. I like that. You know, Tristan, I've got some relevant facts for you too. I'm going to give you 3 numbers that represent the local startup ecosystem here in Arizona. My first number is 1, of course. ASU is number 1 in the nation for global impact in advancing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Sierra Magazine also ranked ASU as its number 1 coolest school in its sustainability and rankings. Being one of the nation's greenest schools is pretty neat for a university in the middle of the desert. Make that make sense. My next number is 7. Phoenix is considered the 7th best startup city in the US, and it's a top 20 globally, which is pretty impressive. All right, I'm gonna close it out on my final number, which is 8. Why 8, you ask? Arizona State University has been ranked number 1 in innovation for the 8th consecutive year by US News and World Report. That is super exciting. Applause, applause. I'm gonna look at you now. Congratulations to the entire ASU community. Keep innovating. And now we're gonna move on to a word on the state of the ecosystem and growth of competition from Cody Friesen, who is the CEO of ASU IO sponsor Source Global and founder of the ASU IO. He's the Fulton Engineering Professor of Innovation at ASU, Senior Sustainability Scientist at the ASU Global Institute of Sustainability, and an MIT Lemelson Award recipient who holds more than 180 patents. What? Welcome, Cody. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you. And thank you for that, and thank you, Dean Squires, for the kind words. And I think I've known Kyle for 25 years at least. And I wouldn't be here as a faculty member if it wasn't for Dean Squires and for Michael Crow and everything that they've done to create the environment that we all exist within here. So I'm just going to make a few comments. We have been running the ASU IO for 7 years now. Every single year, the competitors get better. Every single year, we see young people coming with phenomenal ideas that are solving problems that often when you first see the idea, you think, I didn't even know that problem existed. Or that hadn't been solved yet. Or wait a minute, there's a business opportunity there? Oh, wow, okay, so now, okay, these unlocks that entrepreneurs and innovators are constantly coming up with are maybe the one bright light in our society today, the opportunity to go and solve problems and advance our society in a way that's ever more sustainable and lifts people up. So I want to thank Eric Leahy, Ashton, Katie, and Linnell for all of the work that it takes to put this together. As I said, it's been 7 years now, and every single time that bar keeps going up. So if you are sitting here in the audience, know that you have beat out other entrepreneurs from all over the country, all over the world, that didn't meet the bar, and that all of those people were really impressive too. So congrats to all of you, independent of whether you win or not today. You're winners for being here, and thanks for coming and enjoying and being part of this this ecosystem building effort that we're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. We appreciate Cody's insight and Source Global's continued sponsorship of today's event. With the help of sponsors like ASU and Source Global, our previous competition winners have gone on to achieve great things. Next, we'll hear from 2 founders and previous winners from year 2 of the ASU IO. Jonathan Barkle, founder and CEO of Air Garage, where you can turn any location into a parking rental space. Something that's kind of useful the weekend of Super Bowl, right? And Alicia Chong Rodriguez, CEO and founder of Bloomer Tech, who took an everyday article of clothing and transformed it into a groundbreaking data collecting tool. Jonathan went to ASU, but is visiting from the Bay Area. And Alicia graduated from MIT with dual degrees and has flown in from Boston. Please welcome Jonathan and Alicia to the stage right here as we have a chance to hear from two founders.
Very cool. It's cool to be back. As they mentioned, Alicia and I both were part of ASU I/O like 5-ish years ago. It's been 5 years. I can't believe it's been 5 years since we were sitting here to be a part of this. And I guess, Alicia, do you want to start off just telling us what have you been up to in the last 5 years?
Yeah, I also can't believe it's been 5 years. I think one of the, in terms of what we've been up to, since last time I came here, I've been growing personally, and the company has been growing as well. And I think seeing so many familiar faces today reminds me of how grateful I am to have been part of this ecosystem, because I've seen a lot of these faces over time, and it has pushed us to succeed. So my company focuses on, I was part of MIT's computational cardiovascular research group, and we realized very early on that there was over 30 years of evidence that showed how women and men in physiology, they were different, right? So we realized that most of the medical devices were underperforming in women. And this is something that until last year, the FDA finally launched a framework, because they are acknowledging that medical devices are underperforming in women in one of the biggest diseases that affects humanity, because it's the #1 cause of death and disability worldwide, right? So this was over 5 years ago. And for us, our solution was basically a technology we designed, a patent on textile-based materials that integrate seamlessly into garments. And now we have scaled production. We can manufacture 50,000 units per batch, and we've been deploying this to generate what we call digital biomarkers. So unlike traditional biomarkers like blood and images that take a snapshot in time, digital biomarkers work more like a video, using data collected over time to explain, influence, and even predict health outcomes. So you have the data when you need it the most and not after an episode happens.
Wow.
So here, it's our scaled platform. We can connect to any undergarment, tank top to sleep, a bra, wireless bra, a surgical and nursing bras, and this is our patented textile technology.
That's really amazing.
Thank you. Yes, and Jonathan, I remember that back in the day when we were here, Air Garage was focused on renting garages out of people's homes. And because I did my undergrad in Mexico, we had a garage there, and we rented that out when people came to games. So it resonated with me so much back then. Are you still in the same line of work?
Yeah, so we've also changed a lot in the last 5 years since we started. So you have a really good memory. 5 years ago when we got started, we started at Air Garage by basically going door to door in the neighborhoods actually around Arizona State University and just knocking on people's doors and saying, hey, would you like to make some extra money every month by renting your driveway out to some students that want affordable parking? So we were students, and we had the classic pain point of like, there's only 3 things that you think are problems when you're a student. It's like textbooks are expensive, finding friends is hard, and parking is too expensive. And it's like, as a student, that's the entire realm of possibilities of like what you can build a company to solve, because that's all you know. And so we, of course, chose one of those things. And that was the original solution we were building, was just this peer-to-peer marketplace of renting out people's driveways near the campus. And at the time, it was a really cool concept, and we got a good amount of traction, and the news liked to talk about it. But we sort of eventually realized, just working on it, it wasn't a very good business model. We didn't really make a lot of money off of it. It was more of a nonprofit than it was a business, right? And so we've shifted a lot over the last 5 years to where now what we do is we manage people's parking lots and parking garages. So when you think of like downtown urban parking lots or garages that you would park in that normally have like a gate arm or an attendant or a machine or cash or whatever it happens to be, Air Garage takes over those facilities, uses our own technology to run it using software, signage, and license plate cameras. And basically, we just try to run it more effectively the way that you would expect a parking garage to be run sort of from first principles in the year 2023 versus 1923. And if I remember right, 5 years ago when we were pitching, it's like you were, obviously my background in parking doesn't come from a science-based background, but you need to like know a lot more about engineering and science. And I think you were doing like dual degrees at MIT when we last met. which is extremely impressive what you've built. And so I guess I'm curious like what your experience has been transitioning from being more of like an engineer, scientist type background into being a CEO now.
Yeah, well, I think the process it's pretty interesting because as an engineer, you're a builder, right? You're very hands-on, you work in labs, you want to make things yourself. And when you transition to lead a company, you're thinking about so many other pieces of the company and not just product, which makes a huge change in mindset. Of course, I have a co-founder, and she's the chief operations officer of the company, so that helped a lot. Her background is in this industrial design and business. And over time, one of the things that I've learned as we hire people, right, like first, ensuring that people we hire either know more than me or can be coached to learn. And it has taken like an evolution of myself to be more hands-off and try to stop being so much part of the product. I think overall it was super exciting when I learned, for example, when we got the expert in apparel design and the expert in material science and the medical device expert all together because they come from so distinct backgrounds, and that I no longer needed to be in meetings because product was moving so fast, manufacturing was moving so fast. It was exciting, right? But because I used to be the one that's soldering things and making things. So it has been a process. It all has to do with surrounding yourself with the right people. I still work a lot with the data anyway because I love looking at data and finding new patterns. Mm-hmm. So I think that's part of who I am that from my technical background will never leave me. But in terms of on your side, can you remind me what degree you graduated from?
Yeah, so don't tell Michael Crow, good thing he's not here, but I was actually studying physics at Arizona State and wound up dropping out to start the company and run the company full time. But it's an interesting story. It's like people often come to me and ask me like, oh, you dropped out of school, like, oh, that's so cool. Like people kind of idolize people like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg who dropped out of school, right? And they're always asking like, hey, I have an idea, should I drop out of school? And usually I'm like, no, like you should absolutely not do that. That's a terrible idea. You should get a degree. Even though like I did drop out of school, but it's like, I think that where we even made a mistake was that like we dropped out like way too soon. Like we basically, this is in like January of 2018, we were like still working on the driveway rental business, which wasn't making any money. And we dropped out and we were like, this is great. We're gonna work on this company full time. And we quickly realized like, hey, this math doesn't quite pencil out here. If we're gonna pay our bills, we need to make more money than what we're making from these driveways. So either we need to get a lot more driveways or we need to have a different business. And so in some ways that led us to like force ourselves to really, sort of ask the hard questions that we maybe weren't asking when it was more of like a side project that we were doing in school. But at the same time, I look back and I'm like, we were just absolutely insane to be dropping out at the time, when we did. So stay in school. Is the message. Arizona State University, you heard it here first. Mm-hmm. Don't drop out of school. Get your degree, work on the business on the side, and then you can always take a year after that to work on things once you graduate. But before we were talking, and you were talking about basically how originally I think Bloomer sort of started, and you saw it as a bra company, but now you don't necessarily see it as a bra company. You see it as something else. Can you expand on that?
Yes. I think we realized early on that the bra was a good garment because a lot of women wear it passively and we can acquire data from her body in a seamless way. So in terms of compliance, which was one of the biggest issues we saw in medical devices, especially because of the bad placement of sensors in women's body, it was a great idea. But fast enough, we learned, similar to you, that it wasn't great business to try to go after a consumer market when we wanted to be a good quality, reliable medical device. And we want to ensure that we're a data company, right? So we realized, yes, the bra is a great supporting garment. There's so many companies doing amazing work in that field so that women can actually, like it can accommodate to different body shapes, styles, and sizes. And we can provide the sensors that can connect seamlessly to these garments at different stage of her life and generate all of these digital biomarkers. So that's how we transitioned to be more focused on the generation of this new technology focused on the data. Yes, and I'm wondering in terms of your new consumers, right? Because you pivoted, right? How has that changed your business?
Yeah, I think that, as I mentioned before, it's like our business has changed so much in the last 5 years, and the biggest lesson that I've taken away from that as an entrepreneur, as a founder, is that the thing that has always led us in the right direction is just talking to our customers and building more of what they want. And the thing that we always do is focus on, like, I think a lot of founders think that they need to build a business in the order of, like, raise money, then build a product, then go get revenue from your customers, right, and sell the thing. And I think that that's the opposite of what you need to do most of the time, is like you should talk to your customers and sell them something and get revenue, then build a product that they actually want from you, and then use that to get traction and go raise money, right? And every time that we've basically made a mistake, it was because we were building something that we didn't actually know if somebody definitively wanted. And the shift that we've made, where we started with driveways, and then we sort of shifted over time to work with basically like churches, businesses, hotels, people that don't generally sell parking, but that had parking that we could open up into the marketplace for the first time. And then now that shift that we've made to sort of these like tier 1 downtown urban parking lots and garages was all just through talking to customers and having them pull us in that direction, where they were sort of saying like, hey, we want this more and more. So one of the big things for us was actually, interestingly, like during the middle of COVID, like in March of 2020, obviously running a parking business is not a business that you want to be in when COVID is happening. And our revenue went down like 90% from week 1 of March 2020 to week 4 of March 2020. So it was obviously a very dire time for us. But in a lot of ways, similar to when we dropped out and it forced us to ask hard questions, it was like that moment that forced us to sit down and evaluate in our business, like, what is actually really working here. And what we found was, hey, there's a subset of our customers that are still doing well, and it's these like downtown urban parking lots. And then there's also these parking lot owners that are like people we thought would never want to work with a small startup because they've been working with a company that's 100 years old and they've been working together for 20 years, but they're coming to us saying, hey, this old company is screwing us and not paying us because of COVID, like we want to work with you instead. And we were like, oh, this is interesting. And so just following that customer demand led us into the market that we're in today, and selling basically the same service and product that we'd already built, but into a better customer profile. It felt a lot less like pulling teeth selling into those customers. And so I know maybe one last topic that we can kind of talk about is like a lot of people obviously are very interested in, as early founders starting a business, how do they raise money from investors? I guess I'm curious, through your experience, like what are some of the key lessons that you learned about, interacting with investors?
Yeah, I think that is somehow very important to touch upon, because a lot of times you pitch to many people, and if it's not your audience, then the fact that they say no means nothing. You could learn from their feedback. It's great to find different perspectives and continue strengthening your business, but try to ensure to bring in the experts investors become your partners, right? In the good times and in the bad times. So if you bring the people that are the people with expertise to strengthen your company, it will be a much stronger partnership. And I think one of the things we learned is that at the beginning, sometimes we would feel that people were condescending to us, sometimes we would feel, and even if they had the expertise, we're like, no, we don't want them in our cap table. Like they haven't deserved the opportunity that we're giving. So also making that transition in mindset, because you're giving them the opportunity to be part of something amazing that you are dedicating your life to, right? So I think that mindset change also shifted the conversation for us, and we were able to get people in our cap table that have built over 100 cardiovascular medical devices and been successful. Some of the biggest exits in the US in this space have been led by them, and it's amazing when people really understand the problem that you're trying to solve. How about you?
Yeah, I think sort of our problem and what I learned was almost like the same thing but opposite, which was that like we need to have a good understanding of like what our business is and how to communicate it to investors and have like a very cohesive vision of that. And like we raised a Series A that was led by Andreessen Horowitz about a year ago, and it's like, that funding round, when I was talking to a lot of investors, in some ways it's almost like difficult for them to put our business into like one bucket, right? Because we are sort of a marketplace between parking lot owners and consumers, but we're also sort of a B2B business in that we have this go-to-market sales motion that we have to build to sell to the real estate owners that we work with. And then we also have this consumer product, and we have hundreds of thousands of consumers using that product every month, right? And so it's like hard for people to be able to see what area we sort of fit into. And investors are very much using this sort of like lens of like, are you a B2B company? Are you a B2C company? You know, what kind of company are you, right? And so I think that that's something that we still, even today, need to work on in the future.
I think that's similar to us too, right? Like we have software, we have medical device, we have the biotech side. I think finding the right fit, it takes time.
It takes time, yeah. And even still today, working with customers, figuring out what we are.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think it was really good catching up with you, and hopefully some of these lessons were interesting and useful.
Yes, it was great to be back here.
Applause.
That was awesome.
Thank you so much, Alicia and Jonathan. Such great advice. Remember that the investors are lucky to be able to work with you. Don't be afraid to pivot. Any other key takeaways, T, that you remember?
Customer. Yeah, I love the idea of the fact that when things weren't working, going back to the customer, rooting yourself in the customer, and then iterating based on their feedback, and how the customer really led, and in both instances, the businesses to find a solution that is really wonderful.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of investors, I feel like most of our audience is really, really excited about an opportunity to receive investment from, I don't know, someone like Mark Cuban. But it's difficult to know what's going on behind the scenes, right? So some of you might be familiar with Shark Tank, right? You know what that is? Yeah.
Anybody?
Today we're gonna have a dolphin tank, okay? Reason being, dolphins are wonderful, friendly animals, live in the same ecosystem, teeth aren't as sharp, and they're here to support you. Well, at least today, our investors are here to support you. So with that being said, we're bringing an alumni from the ASU IO onto stage, Casey Grage, and she's going to pitch her business live. After that, we're gonna open it up to questioning from our investors, right? And this is your opportunity to see behind the scenes. What do investors really look for? What are they asking? If you're taking notes, it's a good time to take notes. And then we'll actually turn it back onto you, so you can ask both Casey and the investors questions, okay? So there'll be one part watching, and then I'll be in the audience taking questions, so get those questions ready. Let's talk a little bit about Casey Grage. She's the founder and CEO of Hubley Surgical. She's here to pitch today live for you, a pitch that's evolved since she was with us last year. She won $50,000 last year. I wonder what she did with it. Hopefully we can find out. Today, she returns with this evolved pitch, and she hopes to receive some honest feedback from real-life investors. She graduated from Northwestern as a former Chicago resident, yes, and has a master's in computational and applied mathematics from Johns Hopkins. Welcome, Casey, to the stage.
Woohoo, come on out.
I have my props.
Oh, yes, here, send them up here.
Great.
Move these beautiful bottles of source water.
Next to my skull. All right.
Whenever you're ready. Floor is yours.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Casey Grage. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hubley Surgical. I'm not sure. Do I get slides?
Yeah, give it a second. Here we go. Oh, there we are.
I'll go back.
Take two. Hold on. Ready? Action.
Thank you very much for the time. And so Hubley Surgical has created an advanced cranial drill that's 510K pending with the goal of making drilling holes through skull and bone safer. My background's in neuroscience and software engineering, and I founded this company as a result of my long family history of neurological disease, which let me see firsthand how antiquated and dangerous neurosurgery can be. And I assembled this incredible team, which includes my COO, Mark Fisher, who's here today. He's spent a life founding med tech companies. My CTO, Tyler, has developed several different class 1, 2, and 3 medical devices and brought them from ideation through to launch. My quality lead, Julie, has led quality regulatory teams for 15 years. Sales lead, Ty Holcomb, has led commercialization at 4 medical device startups through to 3 successful exits. And my co-founder, Dr. Amit Ayer, is an elite neurosurgeon from Stanford and Northwestern, and he has founded a different neurotech company. And now we are all focused on modernizing burr holes, or the drilling of a hole through the skull, for which over 240,000 procedures are performed every year in the United States. And 20% of them result in severe complications of stroke, hemorrhage, brain infection, or death. Now, this is a very troubling statistic, but it starts to make sense when you learn that no matter where you go, even the best of the best are using this hand crank drill to drill burr holes in emergencies. And in the operating room, they're using wire-to-the-wall versions that still lack really basic safety features and contribute to that 20% failure rate. So that's why we've developed the Hubley surgical drill, which has obviously cordless power, LED force control, and smart auto stop to prevent accidental drilling into the brain. So here's a quick demo. Larger medical device companies have tried for decades to implement pressure sensing auto stop, but we've ultimately succeeded where they have failed by moving away from pressure sensing as the primary mechanism. And I can give you a live demo right here. So as you can see, the LED is green when you're applying the correct force, and then it turns red and stops when you break through the skull. So we have 4 patents pending, and Hubley owns all of the IP without any royalties or licenses owed to anyone. We're starting with this emergency burr hole procedure because of the great need, but ultimately this technology can apply across orthopedic and cranial procedures, which represents $8.5 billion of potential revenue in the US alone. And we're confident we can move into this operating room space because surgeons today use the same drills for cranial and orthopedic procedures in the operating room. And the only option for auto stop is the cranial perforator. It is not scalable technology, and it only has half an X because it does not stop at all about 1 in 100 times, which means the physician is high-speed drilling into the patient's brain. And about 15% of the time, it stops too early without any opportunity for restart, which means the physician has to get a new drill. So Hubley would be the only option for functional auto stop anywhere. It's no surprise that 15% of all adult US Level 1 trauma centers have asked to be on our wait list, and 132 out of 150 neurosurgeons have said this is a huge issue and they would pay more for Hubley. And those who don't just want to see more data, which of course we're in the process of collecting with our hospital partners: UCLA, Centura, Northwestern, Mount Sinai, Johns Hopkins, and hopefully soon Barrow. Now, we're targeting these urban academic centers because of their high volumes and their prioritization of innovation. But we'll also do well with large hospital systems because we're actually price matching this hand crank drill. So we're completely covered by existing reimbursement codes, and we can still save hospitals, we believe, up to thousands of dollars through reducing OR reliance and limiting stay in the ICU. And because we're making a 90% gross margin, we have room to discount and compete with bundling and discounting of the existing product. Now, we have raised about $3 million to date to get us to where we are now, which is 510(k) FDA clearance pending. And a non-insignificant part of that was from ASU IO last year and investors that we met specifically through this competition. So thank you for that. Thank you. We're at the point now where we should be getting FDA clearance this year, and then we'll be ready to launch and gain revenue over the next couple years. And we've already been in bi-monthly conversations with some of the largest medical device companies out there regarding an exit. So again, thank you so much for your time, and I'll open the floor to questions.
Casey. So Diana, or if you want to come with me over here, Casey, we're going to go ahead and introduce some of our investors. That's right. We had some investors listening in on Casey's speech today, so we're going to give them the chance to come up and take their seats on stage, and we're going to hear what questions they have for Casey today. So come on up, investors.
Woo! Oh, that happened. Really excited.
Really amplified. All right, so starting, oh man, we're all out of order here. Okay, so we are starting with Matt Cohen. Matt Cohen is the Director of Technology at Pangea Ventures. We then have Diana Sankovic. She's the Director of Venture Investments at Arizona Venture Development Corporation. We have Luis Hardman, Director of Investor Engagement at ASU's RealmSpark. And last but certainly not least, we have Chris Yu, who is the Managing Director at Accelerate Ventures. So thank you all for being here today. One more round of applause. All right, so here are the rules, investors. You have 5 minutes to ask Casey questions about Hubley. So feel free to jump in. What lingering questions do you all have for her? Not all at once.
I can kick things off. It's a great presentation. It seems like really encouraging progress, so definitely commend you for that. But just to be clear, so what happens when a neurosurgeon uses a drill and doesn't stop in time? Like, what are the complications from that? And maybe you can just kind of quantify that for us and finish that loop of the story.
Sure. So papers and studies have shown that surgeons drill a little bit too far almost every time. Any amount that you're drilling into the cerebral cortex is going to greatly increase your chances of infection, stroke, hemorrhage, and death, or other neurological defects. So that's definitely what we want to avoid, is that little bit of drilling into the brain. But even worse is that sometimes, we don't have exact numbers, but every neurosurgeon I've talked to has seen this happen or done it themselves, where they accidentally drill centimeters or inches into the brain, and that can lead to instant death. So it's a very bad problem.
Can you talk more about your sales process? Is the neurosurgeon the decision maker on which drill to use, and what does the buying process look like depending on if they are with their own practice or part of a larger medical group or hospital system?
Sure. So our customer is neurosurgery attendings. The higher up the better if they're a vice chair or a chief of neurosurgery at different hospital institutions. So we need to get a decision maker, such as a neurosurgeon, to say, I want this for my hospital. They would pitch it to their procurement committee, which is typically other neurosurgery attendings and finance personnel, and then they would approve the product for sale in their hospital system. So at this point, pre-FDA clearance, we're going out there, going to conferences, getting these neurosurgeons to say, I want this. As soon as you're cleared, let me know, and I will pitch this to our procurement committee. And we've also been able to speak to finance personnel, administrators, ICU managers to understand the economics, and that's how we came up with our price point.
Hi, I would like to echo that you had a great presentation. My question is regarding manufacturing of the product.
Yep.
Could you speak a bit more about how it's made and how you will meet demand and ramp up as you expect to make your sales?
Absolutely. It's manufactured right now in Boulder, Colorado. And actually right now, in anticipation of ramp up, we're working on a Rev B of our drill, where we're going to make some supplier changes and streamline the design to reduce our COGS even further and then be able to ramp up. And we're also looking at switching to a different contract manufacturer for when we decide to pull the trigger and we say 2,000, right now our manufacturer in Colorado can make up to about 2,000 units per month. So when we get to the point where that's not enough, or once it's starting to look like we're gonna hit that, we'll be able to pull the trigger and switch to a much larger manufacturer that we've already vetted.
Great presentation. Thanks. All of us believe so, I think. When do you expect to get to profitability?
Yeah, that's a great question. Hopefully within 2 years after we launch. And hopefully we launch soon. We've already submitted to the FDA. We've got our substantive review. We've had multiple interactions with them. And so we feel very confident that we will be getting FDA clearance soon.
So, and have you received any feedback from the FDA about your submission and the product itself, or any issues with the product? Or
yep, they had no worries about the auto stop or the functionality. They asked us to do additional endpoint biocompatibility testing, and we've already finished about 60% of that testing. The last 2 tests will be done in the next couple weeks.
So as an investor, we always have one eye on a potential exit event in returning capital. So I guess I'll ask this kind of bluntly, but what are the milestone or set of milestones you need to hit for Medtronic or Stryker to buy you? Because I think that's the most likely place where this finds a home.
I can give you a very exact answer. They want to see 12 months of revenue, at least. So we're planning right now, we're going to be raising a Series A of about $7 million as soon as we get FDA clearance, and that will be able to carry us through about 2 years of revenue and post-market clinical data.
Can you talk about the scalability? Are you only a hardware product sale, or do you have plans to move into a recurring revenue model?
Yeah, that's a great point. So this is a single-use disposable device. So there's built-in recurring revenue by that way. However, we'll likely do this with a strategic partner, such as Stryker or Medtronic. To move into the operating room space, the end goal is to do a one-time sale of the drill with a monthly or quarterly or annual subscription for the single-use drill bits. And that's what Medtronic and Stryker, that's their business model for operating room drills right now.
And do you foresee any changes or maybe issues to think about with the different types of markets? So you mentioned this is, cranial, right? So
Yep.
orthopedic, are there any specialties that you have to think about and how to sell to those as you scale?
Absolutely. Replacing the hand crank drill is a much less competitive market than the operating room. So as soon as we decide to move into the OR, we're dealing with going up against Medtronic, Stryker, and J&J. That being said, again, we do plan to strategically partner in the next few years, and so that's part of how we plan to deal with that competition. And in terms of the customer, we're first transitioning from cranial to ortho by going into spine, and so that's one of our next opportunities is laminectomy, laminotomy, which is drilling through the vertebrae, not hitting the spinal cord, which again, they don't have any auto stop. They can't use the cranial perforator for that. And spine surgeons are either neurosurgeons or orthopedic surgeons. So we're kind of transitioning customers in that way.
All right, thank you so much for your questions,
Thank you.
investors. Thank you so much, Casey. Casey, you're welcome to take a seat if you want to, but they're going to just answer a few more questions. It's my turn to get back at them for peppering you with so many questions in the last few minutes. But investors, excellent job. It's very clear that you were all impressed with Casey's pitch today. Now, Luis and Chris, I know that the two of you were kind of hinting at the scalability factor here. So I want to ask if the two of you have any recommendations for her as she proceeds. How can she ensure that her product remains scalable in a great way?
I think she gave a great answer on, the inherent scalability of having a disposable product, and certainly having kind of the razor blade model of a product that you sell initially and then ongoing revenues from the drill bits. I would like to see more analogies of that in the space. So she mentioned that Medtronic and Stryker take that model, but in further investor Q&A, that's something I would want to dig into is what are the analogies and what are the margins, not just on the first sale, but on the recurring sales as well.
Yeah, and I think with more time, I think Casey could also go into more detail on the technology itself, because as I understand it, a lot of it has to do with the algorithm and the electronics in the device. And when you think about it, it's very simple. It's not a Black & Decker, right, where you go in and put screws in a wall. You actually have this very sensitive feedback loop that's occurring in the device. So are there other ways that you can leverage that to extend to other types of devices that involve RPMs and doing something in the OR? And then secondly, I would say having those key opinion leaders and establishing a network of physicians who really champion the product in each of the indications that you're going after, I think is important for scalability.
Wonderful, thank you both. Diana, this next question is for you. I was hoping that you could identify something that you thought was really strong about Casey's pitch and maybe a small area of improvement for future pitches.
Well, I think Casey definitely captured all of the sort of necessary things that investors look for in a pitch. So she covered all of the right slides and that sort of thing. I would like to see a bit more detail on the competitive slide. It's not quite clear to me what the barriers to entry would be for someone else to come up with something similar. And also a bit more about the alternate products.
Absolutely. Okay, write that down for next time, taking notes. And then Matt, the last question is for you. Now, say you're ready to invest in Casey's product right now. What would next steps look like?
Well, there'd probably be a little bit of diligence that we'd want to do. One of which would certainly be to talk to a few neurosurgeons and folks who might actually be using this product and how they would think about utilizing it, what they need to see to incorporate this, how they would get this through their value committees and convince all of the other attendings and just hear that voice of a customer, since it's one thing for a company to push a technology, it's another thing for the market to be really demanding it and kind of pulling it through. And I think it generally is a little bit easier to be on the latter side of that equation.
Okay, great. Now, one final question that I have for all of you before we open it up to audience questions is, for any student teams out there that are hustling on their technology, their innovation, what advice would you have for them? Something for them to remember when they go home after this event?
I mean, from our perspective, it's all about the people. I know that's probably overused, but in many respects, you know, it's a very hard journey. It is something that will change your life as an entrepreneur. And for those who invest and provide you with capital to do what you want to do, it's also their hard-earned money, right? And so you're combining something that's incredibly stressful and impactful with trust with someone's financial support. So I would say that it is the people. It's about Casey. It's about how driven is she, and will she execute and go through those hard times and make it through on the other end.
I would say fall in love with the problem you're solving or the market and not your product. To Matt's point, it's always better for an investor to see a pull from the marketplace rather than a push. So we're looking for companies and entrepreneurs that are really excited to create change and not necessarily to push a cool technology out into the world.
I would say make use of all of the vast resources that entrepreneurs have available to them now, and seek advice in crafting your elevator pitch and your story, and have enough time to practice before you go out to investors, because you just get that one shot.
Yeah, I would say to really focus on the why. Like, why are you doing this, and why does this need to exist in the world? And if you can convince investors of that, then we'll dig into the how. But no one really cares about the how unless they're convinced on the why and the importance of it. So keep that in mind, especially if you're coming from a really technology-heavy background like many of the entrepreneurs in this room are. It can be really easy to be enamored with technology and really awesome science, but that's not what's going to get you investment or to make your company a success. It's not usually the technology that fails. It's all of the other things that go into making a business.
I love that. It's the people element. You can't just convince people with the numbers. You have to be attuned to that why. You have to understand what you're pushing out and what impact you hope to have with that product. Thank you so much, investors. Stay where you are. We're going to take a couple of questions from the audience. These lights are super, super bright, so I have no idea where Tristan is, but she's out there somewhere. Oh, there she is.
It could also be because I'm so tall. So I'm in the audience and I'm looking for people who have questions either for Casey or the investors. I'll come over to you. You'll use the microphone. Anybody? Oh, I see a hand. Hello, sir. Come on over. I don't want to, jump, leap, gazelle. We can also passing it down. Here it comes. Awesome. What is your name?
Hi, I'm Steven. I'm representing Flurry from Carnegie Mellon University at this competition.
Awesome. Thank you for that intro. And then who's the question for today?
Hi, this is for all the investors. So I was curious about this when Hubley was giving the pitch, because I assume that they focus on a very specific problem of burr holes, and I assume not all of you investors have strong medical backgrounds. So I'm wondering, especially in such a short time period of a 5-minute Q&A, how do you decide what questions to ask to assess whether the claims are legitimate or if it's a bit more played up? How do you process a signal from noise?
They're noodling.
You've stumped them.
I can start. Look, so in a 5-minute pitch presentation, especially in an area that most of us are not going to be experts on, I'm actually less concerned about doing technical due diligence and really understanding if some of these claims are factually accurate or verifiable, that can be done in the future. For me, it's more around assessing the kind of need and the problem being solved and the general approach, and then to dig into some of those details later. So it's kind of like a trust but verify approach, at least in the way I think about it. But I'm also not writing a check in 5 minutes time, right? It's gonna be a big process afterwards. But whether or not it's interesting, that's what I kind of want to determine in that initial 5-minute discussion.
I think it goes back to the idea of that when you give a pitch, you have a very short period of time to catch people's attention. So are you captivating them? And absolutely, there's teams that dive into the business after to see, are these claims real or not? Thank you so much. All right, our next question. Go ahead, stand up, Mr. Blue Shirt.
Hi, Connor Crawford, Pike Robotics, UT Austin, oil and gas inspections with robots. My question was kind of, you said you're not going to make that decision in 5 minutes. So you're going to go through that due diligence phase. In that due diligence phase, how important is a somewhat evaluation of the customer discovery that the startup founders has done or is doing? Like, do you like to see, here's all the 10 questions we've asked our customers, and here's almost an analysis of those pain points and how much they would pay for it, and finding those stakeholders, as you mentioned, about the neurosurgeon, who's going to be the person making the decision. Do you like to see that they've interviewed 200 people and then that fall under these different categories, and then what they've said about that?
So I'll just jump in and say, one of my partners in Accelerant Ventures is a physician, and he actually has spoken to Casey, and one of the key differentiators, I think, that Alicia actually had mentioned is you have to know who you're talking to, right? And so if the venture capitalists have that background, you have to understand what might be most important to them in their field or their domain. So with John, my partner, he was most interested, he is an emergency room doc, how would it be used in the emergency room setting? So if Casey had already spent time with emergency room doctors talking about the device and gotten some feedback, that's critical to mention. I think that kind of customer discovery matters more than, say, 100 physicians telling her their opinions.
I also like to dive in and ask, where did those conversations go and what's the next step? If you had 200 conversations, how are you managing that funnel? And how many of those would convert to customers and at what milestone? In Casey's case, she mentioned the 510K clearance milestone as critical. And the difference also in understanding, were the 200 interviews your customer who's writing a check for your product or the user? And are those different people?
And I would just add that you would want to be prepared that the investors will do their own interviews with a different set of people or customers to confirm some of the research that you had done.
All right.
Is
Can I
that
get
it?
a big round of applause
All right.
for both our investors and for Casey.
Investors, you are dismissed. Thank you so much. Casey, you're not off the hook just yet. Come on back. You want to grab a chair and sit with me? Yeah. Yeah, we're going to make you talk some more if you haven't talked enough today. Did everyone get the between two ferns joke here with the between two founders? Yeah. I see some people nodding. You're my humans. How are you feeling, Casey?
I'm feeling good.
Nice.
It's been very gray in Chicago, so I feel like I've seen the sun for the first time in like a couple months. It's been nice.
You joined us from the windy city to the windy city of Phoenix, Arizona today. I'm sorry about that.
I love it.
Good. I wanted to congratulate you. Well done on your pitch. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Like I said earlier, the investors seem to be impressed, but how has your approach changed from pitching at ASU I/O? We've heard a lot of people talk about pivots today with the parking structures, with the wearable devices. How has yours pivoted?
Yeah, I mean, so we have had a product pivot before, not in the last year, but I can talk about that if you'd like.
Absolutely.
Sure. So when I first went full-time on this company, we had a different method of doing the auto stop that worked really well. We had been developing the device, and we got to the point where I wanted to raise our first capital round. And I tell everyone I spoke with 50 investors, and I got a yes on investor number 3, a yes on investor number 6, and then I got 44 no's in a row.
But who's keeping track?
But who is keeping, yeah, who's counting? So anyway, I went back to these investors and I asked them what was the main criticism. And the problem was that our cost of goods to make the drill were too high. They thought our price point was too high compared to the competitor, and our margin was too low. So my co-founder and I decided to go back to the drawing board, completely reinvent the drill using a different method of doing the auto stop. We reduced our COGS by 80%, so we were able to then price match, now have this 90% margin. I went back to those investors and a bunch of them came in and we were able to raise the round. So that was and I think the point was the investors were right. I don't know that we would have been successful selling that previous product.
So they're right sometimes, not all the time, but every now and again. So this is not your first rodeo when it comes to pitching in front of investors. What did you think of the questions that you were asked today?
They were great. I guess I have to say that.
I guess you do.
No, I mean, the questions are, obviously these are smart investors. You picked well. I don't know if it was you personally who picked them, but
I can't take credit for that, unfortunately.
Very smart questions, exactly who is your customer? What's the process for getting into hospitals? What's the tech like? Is it single-use disposable? Is it a razor blade model? Those are the kinds of questions that I debate putting in the 5-minute pitch, but ultimately things need to get cut out, and so I'm really grateful when I get asked them.
Yes. Yeah, so you got some ideas for maybe what to include in future pitches. Any other key feedback or advice that they gave, or little nuggets you're going to take away from this interaction?
Yeah, absolutely. The point you made about talking a little bit more about the competitors and the barriers to entry, that's a really, really great point. That's maybe the most important thing that I didn't mention, as what's going to stop someone else from doing this, and why are we special?
Well,
so I will put that in the pitch.
That proves the point, right? You got to get out there and pitch as much as possible, because with each interaction, you learn something new and you get a different perspective, which is fabulous. So if they pass on a deal with you, it's obviously they're missing on a big opportunity. But if they add you to their portfolio, what is the value add? This is your last chance to hype yourself up in front of the investors.
I mean, the value add is that we're revolutionizing a procedure that has not changed in honestly hundreds of years. So you get to know that you're saving lives, and you're changing neurosurgery. I mean, how fun is that?
Sounds pretty fun to me. Thank you so much.
And then you can make money too.
Okay. They like that. Thank you so much, Casey.
Thank you.
Everybody, big round of applause for Casey. But Casey, stay for just 1 second, because we have some audience questions for you as well. So you can stand, you can sit, you can dance, whatever feels comfy for you. Tristan, any questions that we have from the audience for today?
Hands up, anybody?
Raise your hands, raise your hands.
Oh, I think that man was itching his head. Should I make him ask the question?
Yeah. Oh,
Any questions for Casey?
Oh, we got one right over there.
See, yes, sir. Come on over. Go ahead and pass that down. Oh, hold on. Please introduce yourself as well.
Hi there. My name is Spencer Matonis, founder of Edgeless Therapeutics, also from Carnegie Mellon University, background material science. And questions completely different from MSc, but I'm just curious on your advice for slide design, and like whether you partnered or used a UI UX designer or visual designer for this work, or it's just you spending hours on the computer. I'm curious if you feel like you have any good tips or software or things that you've picked up along the way to design impactful, concise, cohesive slides.
This slide deck was done by an undergrad intern, but she's fantastic. I can introduce you to her if you would like. But no, I mean, I've also spent hours. It's kind of been that collaborative process. I have worked with like bigger graphic design consultancy companies, and I ended up not using those designs, not because they weren't good, but because I realized it needed to be kind of a collaborative effort, going back and forth between someone who really understood the problem and what we were trying to get across to our audiences, and then with my own input.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a follow-up question for you. So you were here a year ago, right? In the past year, how many investor pitches have you had or made in front of how many people?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we've raised a couple $1 million in the last year, and our cap table is enormous. That's not the goal necessarily,
Yeah.
but we've done a lot of angel groups and individual angels. We obviously, we really prioritize non-monetary value add, so it's a lot of physicians, as well as, medical device experts. I don't know, if I had to guess, maybe like 500.
Awesome. Well, I wanted it to be realistic, right? I think we sometimes think that with one pitch, we're going to get $1 million, which is not real. And maybe it's your background in computational mathematics, but I think counting those 500 pitches sounds realistic, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not even really sure what to count as pitches anymore because I talk to so many people. Sometimes I don't even know that they're interested in investing.
Yeah.
A lot with neurosurgeons especially. I'm
Yeah.
talking to them as a customer, and then they say, oh, by the way, I'm interested in investing. And I'm like, oh.
Always ready.
Even better.
Yes, always ready. Awesome. Any other questions going once?
We have
Ooh,
one
yes,
back
thank
there.
you.
Yep.
I'm going to run to the back. There's a bunch of secret steps, so if I wipe out, Sparky, catch me.
Hustle, T, hustle.
Short legs, long strides. Here you are.
Thank you. That was a very impressive pitch. I'm a student right now at ASU in entrepreneurship, and my question for you is, because your venture is obviously much better than mine at the moment, but it is similar in that I am also trying to market a product that has a direct benefit for the end user, in my case a student, but I'm trying to market it to the educator or the school, in your case the doctor, surgeon, or the hospital. And so I've been running into this problem where people want me to try to explain what the benefit is for the teacher because they're the user, but I've been trying to focus on what the benefit is for the student, right, the beneficiary. And I was wondering if you've run into the same problem with how to explain your venture and how you solved it, because the pitch that I saw was excellent and the investors didn't seem to be confused about those two beneficiaries. So I was wondering if you could just give me a little bit of advice in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they mentioned that knowing who you're talking to is probably the most important thing, of knowing which value proposition to emphasize. I would say if I'm not talking to the user, if I'm talking to the payer, then I mention my customer interviews and I have some kind of stat, this percent of students that I spoke, this percent of users that I spoke to thought XYZ about the product, here are the KOLs or representatives there. But my primary pitch is focused on the cost savings value. So I use the same slides every time, but I change my script every single time.
I love that. That's awesome. It's agility. You have a big tool belt filled with different things to say, and you know when to pull them out and to offer them to the audience. Amazing. All right, grand finale question. Can I get a drum roll? That's a terrible drum roll. We'll take it. Go ahead.
A lot of
Introduce yourself.
pressure there. Hi, my name is Shen. I'm co-founder of Inya Biosciences, and fantastic pitch. Wanted to, because you mentioned you've pitched to so many people, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of great feedback. How do you think about what to incorporate into your next pitch? How do you kind of tease out which is, good suggestions, advice, and what are, maybe not quite relevant to what you're trying to do?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, again, it goes back to catering the pitch to whoever I'm speaking to. So however much research I can do on the customer or the investor beforehand is gold. If I don't know who I'm speaking to, then I make sure that I'm paying attention to facial expressions the whole time, and I can see what they get excited about or what they're kind of falling asleep to, and then I cater it that way. Did I answer your question? Which criticism to listen to and what not to. Yeah, I think that's the main thing, is you get so much feedback, and some of it, for example, when I started pitching, I remember that I was told to have 10 different slides as my first slide, which is 10 times impossible. So yeah, at the end of the day, I realized that I just need to play to my own personal strengths and my company's strengths, and that's how I made that decision from there, is kind of trusting, validating where that advice is coming from, why they're saying that, and then kind of just going with my gut.
One thing I will say is often when I work with entrepreneurs, I tell them to look at the data. So if you get the same nugget of feedback 100 times, probably time to change something. In fact, I'd do it before 100, but if you're noticing that constantly you're getting asked about the customer, constantly you're being asked about the technology, there's something there for you to flesh out.
44 times being told your cogs are too high.
Bingo! Thank you so much, Casey. Great work today. Thank you for being so vulnerable and open to the audience. Can we get a round of applause for Casey? All right, so now we're going to take a second here to bring up our keynote discussion. We invite Joy Seitz to the stage for a little bit of a talk. In 2009, Joy joined the American Solar and Roofing to help direct their business and policy development initiative. Today, she leads the company through an exciting era of growth. She serves on the Development Advisory Board and the Fire Safety Board, and also, there's a lot of boards here, National Solar Board of the Solar Energy Industry Association. Before joining American Solar, Joy held leadership roles in healthcare, hospice family care, venture capital, local nonprofits, as well as serving as a lobbyist with Policy Development Group in a number of industry sectors. She has a bachelor's in finance from the School of Global Management and leadership at Arizona State University. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So,
oops, sorry.
yeah, no, go for it.
I'm sorry. You've been talking for 1 second before we begin.
Yeah, there's a lot of boards.
I know, I'm so sorry. Before we begin, I just wanted to acknowledge everyone who pitched to us today. Can you put your right hand up? If you pitched to us today, maybe not me, but others in the room. And then put it over your left shoulder, and then pat yourself on the back. Y'all did good, and as I was chatting with my neighbor here, I was like, I can't believe I'm the person between us having beautiful Arizona weather, y'all figuring out who won. So hopefully I'll be enough entertainment.
Absolutely.
I am between the winning and the leaving.
Yeah, money and the
and then beautiful
waste
weather and the waste management over,
Yeah.
everything, yes.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
So your background professionally, you ended up in solar, but where did it begin? How did you find your way to solar?
Yes. I found my way to solar. I am an Arizona native. I am exposed to, as you heard through all my boards and all my experiences, I was exposed to a lot of different sectors early on. So I kind of jumped around while I was going to ASU. I was at the venture capital firm, and so as I joked with a few, I was learning fundamentals at ASU at night, and then going into a venture capital firm during the dot-com boom and bust, and couldn't reconcile, fundamentals versus real life. And then my life journey ended up doing some lobbying work at Policy Development Group, where I was exposed to mining, to transportation, construction, and then I moved a little bit into politics for a while. And then in 2009, honestly, when nobody else was hiring and I was looking for another job because it was recession time, nobody was hiring, solar was booming. And so luckily for me, I was able to land in something that I'd always had a passion for. In probably 6th or 7th grade, I was reading Silent Spring, which is about pesticide and the poisoning of pesticides, and writing book reports on that. So, and my mom just gave me a big box of my memories, and I have a couple in there, like some stuff on pollution and some stuff on
You were ahead of your
pesticides. So it must have been in me
Yeah.
to end up in solar. And I mean, it's as we all know, it's a technology that is emerging, right? The company I now run is the first residential solar construction installer in Arizona. So that was just 22 years ago. I do joke that we did come before, or we came before the iPhone, but the team was leading with Blackberries at the time. But when you think about solar and where we are now, it was just 22 years ago, and now we have, Congress has just passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the largest clean energy act that the United States has ever seen, right? So what an exponential growth we're now in.
Amazing. I think half of the audience is Googling BlackBerry right now.
Right, possibly.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah. Guys, you can get them
I mean, I've heard
thrift stores.
Yeah, and I've heard some are going back to flips.
Ooh.
So yeah, like we're breaking free of technology, maybe.
All old is new.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, you across your career have had opportunities to lead, and many of our teams are maybe started as solo ideas or small teams, right? Maybe of 5 or so. And when you're a team of 5, you're putting out all of the fires. One day you're doing analytics, one day you're doing product development, one day you're raising. Eventually you get to a place where you get to manage the bigger picture.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey into leadership and what that looked like for you.
Bumpy, As I joke with many, I'm like, Glassdoor exists. Y'all know about Glassdoor.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm really excited that Glassdoor exists as a CEO and owner during bumpy times. So my journey truly is really bumpy, and getting the feedback. So you do have to, as Casey was saying and as you were saying, if somebody says something 42 times or 44 times, you probably should look at it.
Yeah.
So my journey, that would be that was my moment of pivoting, was really paying attention to that, really getting the feedback. But as I was kind of evaluating my journey, of being a younger leader to now, you do wear all the hats. And when you wear all the hats, you kind of live in scarcity. You kind of live in, I must know everything. You're probably not getting a lot of sleep. So you're probably making decisions that maybe on 10 hours of sleep, or even maybe 5, you would have made differently. You also when you're not engaged enough and you don't have enough team members, you don't have enough time to slow down to be curious. So, as I'm listening to the pitches, all y'all are just really focusing on what that next step is, as you move from that almost scarcity feeling and almost urgency feeling into finally landing wherever life lands you for the moment, even month to a couple years, having that space to just be able to reflect back and ask curious questions, ask them of your team, ask them of yourself, is really, was my moment of clarity. After that, though, I identified through my naturopathic doctor, he recommended an executive coach. Probably, this just in, you don't need vitamins, girl. You need to calm down and meditate. I'm like, okay. So he recommended an executive coach, and her name is Connie, and I will say that she, through her own curiosity, made me a better person. It wasn't a situation where I was laying on the couch, right, and just talking about my mom and dad or whatever. It was real questions about how are you showing up today, right? If you asked yourself, as a leader, even if you're in the startup mode and you're asking for funding, how am I showing up today? That could change the trajectory of your day. If you realize you're showing up in a bad mood, probably don't go talk to your team. Or say, I'm showing up in a bad mood today, before you chat. So that was really, right, that's the question. My evolution of becoming a leader is that I had just enough space fighting fossil fuel, figuring out how to run a construction company, raising my children, and being at dinner every night. I had just enough space to have somebody recommend an executive coach, which was just an hour every 2 or 3 weeks and $100 or something.
Yeah.
And that was life-changing into my leadership role today, which has moved me from the scarcity, I have to do it all myself, I must control everything, what if I don't control everything, how's that gonna look, to more openness, more vulnerability, more curiosity, more team, all boats rise thought process.
I love everything you said. I think if we take a step back, we can see this kind of throughput line, right, of constantly having sounding boards external to ourselves. We heard it with Alicia talking about hiring teams that were smarter than her. I think that's so, so wonderful that she could see the needs of the business, right, and she could advocate for the business in that way. You saw the needs of yourself, and you advocated, right, by finding this individual to coach you through that.
Right.
As a result of receiving coaching and allowing yourself to evolve, what has happened to the team around you? What have you seen as a trickle down, right, to the company as a whole? Have they embodied this too, and has it allowed for growth in a way that couldn't have happened years ago?
Yes, 100%. Well, I think so. I think they're watching from home. So
let's go ask them.
Yeah, exactly. Hi
from
home.
YouTube or Twitter.
Exactly.
Confirm.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe so. I mean, and I would also say that it's not only in my work, it's in my personal life, right? It's my curiosity with my kids. It's having the ability. I have one who's considering, I have one who's considering, options for college, and just slowing down and not being a parent who just wants to tell you what to do and how it has to be done, right? Like I have to have enough patience to ask those questions. Oh, interesting, why are you thinking you're not gonna go? Oh, interesting, why do you think you are gonna go? Right, like no answer is wrong, no answer is right. It's very like, we'll see, you know, if that decision works out. So I would say going back to my leadership life, I have team members who've been with me since, you know, pre-Connie and post-Connie, and we joke about it often, that they could have gone to Glassdoor, but they didn't.
Oh, great. Which is why they're still with you.
That's right,
yeah.
right. So, and they have, you know, folks that check in still, and you're like, oh, you're still working for her? And it's like, yeah, you know, it's not that bad. I would say it's always getting better. What I thought I knew when I was 35 and 25, you know, I just can't even believe, and you know, I look forward to the next decade of evolution. So I believe that it's getting better. We grew year over year, almost 100% from one year to the next.
Amazing.
The team is on track, you know, and setting those goals up to do that this year. We started doing a system called Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is EOS. If you're not doing it and you don't have systems within, you should look into it. It's literally just built in. I'm a visionary. I'm not a person who's in the weeds doing work, so it was perfect for me to have systems that said, hey team, run on this. And then I just knew the data and how that was going to predict for me. So I was able to get all of that established after I established myself.
Amazing. So many of them are not established themselves yet, right? They are running quickly with their ideas, and they are crashing and failing forward and learning. What I took from you is this little nugget of take a second for reflection. Take a moment, even in the chaos. So after today, before you go and watch golf, take a second and soak it all in. Is there any other nuggets of advice that you would give to the entrepreneurs in the room today?
Well, when I worked in venture capital, what was interesting for me is the first thing they basically said is, whatever the idea is today, just know it's going to be totally different in a year. And I just hearken that through even my very established business. Everything is changing and everything is dynamic. When things are the same, I almost am like, oh, thank the Lord. Like one of my core values in my company is positive accountability, and it's basically like, hey, you guys and gals and whomever, you know, if you see that somebody's showing up and doing their job, just say like thanks, right? Like positive accountability. So just be thankful for whatever you're going through, but know that everybody feels the stress if you're feeling the stress. And as I always so tell myself, like, a few things, I guess, is heavy is the head that wears the crown. If you choose to take that leadership role and you choose to run, know that it's hard. And I downloaded like an applause app at one point on my phone. So when I knew I did something right, I just like hit the applause app, because that ain't coming, right? That you're just not gonna get it. Yeah. So I just hit it for myself.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with that idea.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Use the simple things, because when it gets hard, you're gonna need the applause app. Yeah, and have faith in yourself.
Amazing. So we've got Bianca in the audience. I'd love to turn it. Does anybody have any questions today for Joy regarding solar, regarding her journey into leadership?
Are you again?
Any questions? Awesome, thank you.
Hi, yeah, my name is Julio. I'm co-founder and CEO of Aerosov, representing UCLA. You mentioned earlier that you were in politics. Did it ever come into play when you were, for instance, for lobbying on Capitol Hill? I'm not one of those people that thinks lobbying gets a bad rap, but it's obviously necessary to create incentives behind transformative technologies. And also, second question is, someone like me that's in a highly regulated industry like healthcare, but have no relationships with, or even knowledge of politics, how would you go around starting to create those relationships? Because I think a lot of those, could be useful as far as creating incentives.
Thank you. Would you mind clarifying your first question, just like lobbying in general, or?
Yeah. Did the being in politics come into play when it came to lobbying? Did it help you out, I guess?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. So I got involved in politics. I served on a campaign in 2003 for a congressional campaign, and boom, I was hooked. So, and I feel like that's for most people. Politics and policy making is just has an addictive tendency, at least for me and my visionary brain, because it's always moving. So yeah, it absolutely played a part. If it weren't this is what I would say, and even during the pitches, this is what I would say is that you have to have grassroots momentum. So the reason why the Inflation Reduction Act passed is not because there were just some great federal lobbyists that just got it done. And I'm not saying, because I serve on the National SIA board, I'm not saying that I don't love SIA for all of what they've done. But how it passed is because we had momentum at the grassroots by companies like ours who kept pushing the policy advisors and the rate makers to make incremental changes. So this is, the Inflation Reduction Act for me is 22 years in the making. I joke and I say American Solar and Roofing is going to be a 22-year overnight success. And so politics, at least for me, matters. I suppose you would want to get with your advisors, right, and do a SWOT analysis and just identify if you have an opportunity, right? If some legislation changed, would that give you some, some push, or would it impact you drastically, right? So I think, yes, I would be surprised if healthcare doesn't have, or whatever you're doing, you're not being impacted somehow, some way by policy. And if you don't know anything about it, again, as y'all are young, just go volunteer for a campaign. That's all you need to know. School board, city council, Congress, whatever you choose. It's so small but yet so big. Connections I made in that one campaign, I'm still calling on today, right? I knew Ruben Gallego and Kirsten Sinema and Corey Woods, like all my local people. We all did, they were much better than me. But we were all hanging out in kitchen parties together. So it matters. Y'all should do it if you want to stay involved in changing policy or changing a business sector.
Fair. Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Made it easy. One more question.
Were you involved in the solar space before you got into it? And if not, how did you establish credibility going into the space?
No, I was involved in policy. So the first hat I wore at the company is policy. And so that's how I earned credibility in it. But again, for anybody who listens, my maiden name is Joy Butler. I made Joy Butler a verb. Like I just kind of broke down walls. I was abrasive. I flew into a rate-making conversation dang near with tears in my eyes because they were about to change policy and the stupid telecom wasn't working and I couldn't give my conversation to it. I've always made my own way, for better or for worse, which is why I needed Connie. But it worked. And so again, there's times and places in which you need decorum. There's times and places where you just have to start throwing stuff on the ground. And again, I've been doing this now for almost 14 years, and there are people at the utility, like the current CEOs of utilities now, again, used to be on the floor with me, and we all joke about how I used to behave. But at the end of the day, I firmly believe that the voice that I provided at that time got us to where we are, because loud voices make change, and consistent loud voices make change. And I didn't do it I didn't do it because I was trying to be mean. I did it because there was a purpose and a passion around it. So no, I had no experience. The only experience I had was just the passion. I think going back to other speakers, right? Just have your passion around it, and that will give the confidence to it.
Wonderful. So do you have passion for your business? Then you win.
Yeah.
Well played. Thank you so much, Joy, for coming on here, for talking a little bit about your journey and the company in which you work for. Can we get a round of applause?
Good luck to y'all.
All right, so Joy gave us a little, no, you're good, a little cue into what comes next, which is the money. You guys are excited, right?
You better get excited. You better get excited. Want me to take that from you? Want to kick it off?
All right, so Bianca, we have 25 teams from literally around the world. Most here have traveled here today in hopes of winning up to $200,000 in prizes. So we've got a $25,000 prize from Source Global Technology for social equity, $25,000 from Avnet for the Connectivity Prize, $50,000 from Intel for the Water Prize, and $100,000 from eSeed for the Pay It Forward Prize. Let's take a quick look at where some of our teams have come from.
Whoa, okay. So it looks like we've got folks from all over. It looks like we've got some representation from the East Coast. Anyone? Oh, come on. Come on, be proud. We also got some West Coast. We know California's in the house. That's right. Okay, come on, people. Bring it. Are you going to win some money in like 3 minutes or what?
Of course, we have the Midwest, my favorite part of the, yes. Yes.
Okay.
And then my new home where I live now, which is Arizona. Yes, ASU. Hello, hello.
Anyone?
Amazing, amazing.
We do also have competitors from outside the U.S., so it's not just the U.S. We've got Canada in the house. Okay. An unenthused Canadian representation.
They were drinking maple syrup. They couldn't respond.
We've also got Palestine, and I think they're tuning in virtually today, so let's give them a round of applause here in the room. No matter where you are from, these teams have put in a lot of hard work to reach this point in the ASU I/O competition. So let's take a look back at the journey they took to get here today.
I think the ASU Innovation Open is really important for students because it encourages students to get out of the classroom and get them into the real world.
This is really where student startups start. Without the initial funding of university pitch competitions and the support of incredible institutions like ASU, these new startups and these new ideas and these new ventures would not get to the next stage.
Startups are really freaking hard, and you're going to put a lot of time and effort into your baby, and this is the chance for students to show off and actually get some accreditation, maybe some money, some recognition for all that hard work they're doing.
It kind of reminds us to be protagonists of change. As protagonists of change, then we're, influencing society, and as society improves, that allows us to then improve as well. So there's a sort of positive feedback loop.
The competition here and the companies that are competing here they all have a very specific goal for the environment and the community as a whole.
Right, so each of these technologies that are here today can make a profound impact on the world.
Even though it's pitched as a competition, realistically at the end of the day, none of us are directly competing with each other, and what we really want to do is make sure we're learning with other groups.
It would feel incredible to win the ASU Innovation Open because it would allow us to actually take the next step in our company to get us to where we need to go.
Seed capital will definitely help us with our first prototype that we're expecting to deliver in the next 12 to 18 months.
Winning a prize here would allow us to actually work on TILO full-time for probably the next 2 years. Additionally, it'd help us with legal fees in terms of securing additional IP for our inventions.
This would allow us to actually start propelling our venture out to get to market. So we're really, really excited, and hopefully we will win.
I'd like that song to play every time I enter a room.
That
was amazing.
Walk-up song.
I don't know about you, Bianca, but I'm ready to get to the good stuff. Let's get to prizes.
All righty then. But we do have an extra special guest to help distribute prizes to our winners today. Can you all help me welcome ASU's mascot, Sparky, back to the stage? Hey, what's up, man? I didn't know if you could see that for a second. And now, for the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to announce our winners and give away some cash money. First up, we're going to be awarding $25,000 from Source Global for the Technology for Social Equity Prize. I'd like to welcome back to the stage Cody Friesen. Cody, can you tell me a little bit about the prize when you get up here and what you were looking for in the winning team? Hold that thought.
The prize is for technology for social equity. So the idea that technology companies can do more than sort of just make money in sort of flippant areas, but rather technologies that are focused on elevating people around the world. And that's the reason why we gave the prize. So are we ready to do this, or what's the process? All right,
let's do it.
Okay, why don't you announce it, Erica?
Oh.
Why don't we play a video?
Oh, even better. Who could it be? Who could it be?
And the winner is...
Nona Technologies.
Awesome. Why don't you guys scoot over to the middle? Let's get a photo op in here. Cody, why, in between photos, why Nona? Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, so Nona is has solved a different way of doing desalination in a way that is lower energy and potentially scales down because desal is tough to scale down and still maintain high energy efficiency. Do you want to add anything to that?
I have something you could add.
Summarize it beautifully. Would you like to join the team?
He's recruiting.
Help us pitch.
I have something if you want. Well, you're going to do it anyway. You're going to pitch. We're all going to hear your pitch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes. How long?
How 5 minutes? 7 minutes? 2 minutes? 1 minute? No minutes.
Somewhere in between.
Let's go 1 minute. It's a 1 minute elevator pitch.
All right.
Basically.
Sounds good. Well, first of all, can I say...
I just got told 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. I can't tell time. I went to public school and then ASU.
Hey, I'm with you there.
Yeah, I think so. I like Sparky being his hype person now.
Thank you. Thank you. Not mad about that being up here. It's nice. It's good company. Yeah, so thank you all so much. This has been a great experience to come and learn from so many fellow entrepreneurs and learn from the judges.
For your slides.
I have slides.
You have slides.
You have slides.
All these miracles are happening. You win, you have slides, you met this devil thing. Yeah, it's an amazing day for you. Let's go.
Fantastic. This is a bit like one of those the parties where you do a blind slide, where you present slides you've never seen before.
Your college parties were different than mine.
That's the business school party right there. But so yeah, I made these a long time ago. Hopefully something intelligible is on them. So this is our team. We're Nona Technologies. We're a group commercializing new desalination technology from MIT. I have a business background. I came from an EV company called Rivian, where I did product development finance, and my partner is a PhD research scientist at MIT, who has been working on this technology for 6 years now and gotten it to the point where we can support human life with these devices, and it's getting really exciting. We're also neighbors. This is a picture of us dining together.
Cute.
So the problem we're solving is water scarcity. It's a huge issue. 1 in 3 people on Earth don't have reliable access to clean water, and yet we've got all this water. 70% of the Earth's surface is covered in water, and there's a lot of water underground too, but we can't drink it. It's salty. So desalination is the answer. The problem is, as Cody alluded to, desalination is bound by its technology today to only work well at the mega scale. So big centralized plants in cities, that leaves a lot of people and a lot of applications unserved. We're trying to change that. Here's a diagram of the technology. So these are all the classic desalination methods. Distillation, there's boiling water, there's reverse osmosis where you push water through a filter at super high pressure. There's electrodialysis, which uses electrical attraction, and ion concentration polarization. That's our new process. That's what we are using. And it essentially uses, think of it like a magnet to pull salt and bacteria out of the water. Low pressure, no membrane fouling, and this is why it can scale down. We don't have the big high pressure pumps that reverse osmosis plants use. We don't have the pre-chemical dosing. So if you take out all these other processes, all the maintenance, it can work anywhere. You don't need big facilities, big teams of technicians to keep these things going. Our first market, man, the order of these slides is really something. Our first market is to go to recreational sailors. So the technology, I think there's a video of it later. It's a small portable device. It was funded by the Army for soldiers who go out in groups of 10 on missions, and they're carrying water on their backs right now. So this will let them have a lighter solution. Their missions can be longer. Their missions can be safer. We've also found a really good market in sailors who choose to go out and just for recreation. And this device will really be unparalleled in performance for that group. We plan to start by serving that niche hobby group, which is recreational boating, who have a huge need for this. They're using the old technology right now and just can't wait to get away from it. There's a big pull there. We have over 700 folks signed up on our pre-order wait list. And we plan to go to the military and disaster relief next, and in time scale up. This technology we found is very efficient with treating groundwater. Most people don't know this. Over 90% of the desalination plants in America treat groundwater. They're nowhere near the coast. The markets are big. This is a boring slide. I'll skip over this. Here's the rest of the team. You met myself and Jung Hyo. We also have our advisor from MIT, and David Mallard, a design executive from Tonal and Apple and IDEO, and he's really good at taking hardware products and making them easy to use. So this is the team. We're growing. If you're an engineer and you want to come work with us, we would love to have you. We're also raising money, so we can talk about that too. Yeah, I think that's it. Nope, financially, we're going to do very well. Here's our timeline. I'll skip all this stuff. So again, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, Nona. What's my name? Oh, Nona. What's my name? That's what Rihanna's going to be singing on Sunday at the halftime show. Nona. Yeah, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, congratulations. Yeah, I think we're actually going to take some questions from the audience first, if that's okay with you. We're thinking on our feet. We're pivoting in real time. That's right. Tristan, anyone have any questions today?
Did you know the slide order before presenting today? Questions going once?
Oh, you need this, though, back.
Yo, I got one down here. Ooh.
Yeah, 10 minutes was proved a little too short. Yeah.
So seeing where we could take this from a portable standpoint, one of the questions, the long term I was going to ask, being a hunter and fisherman, how portable can we get that? Because it's a segment of the population, certainly in the Northwest, Alaska, that being out in the wilderness, not being able to get drinkable water quickly is a big problem for tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, so the answer is we can go pretty small. Our prototype right now is about the size of a carry-on suitcase. It's about 1 cubic foot. It weighs less than 20 pounds. Can supply water for 10 people on solar only. More if you have another power source. But you don't want to hike with 20 pounds with a big case. I think we could get it down to maybe like if you need to sustain one person, and maybe you have a battery like another power source. I think it's possible to go below 5 pounds and be really small. The barrier I think about there is, at what point is that not useful? Like how many hunters and fishermen need saltwater desalination? If you just have like a lake or stream you're worried about, like a freshwater source that's just dirty, life straws are very cheap and very small. Thanks.
I love that you were in the room and had a chance to do the follow-up question. That's a really great opportunity. Can we give a round of applause for our very first award?
Thank you.
So how will you get this home?
I have no idea.
Does
I have
it
one
fit in the
carry-on.
car?
Is that 20? Does it fit into a rollaway suitcase? Is it 20 pounds? No? Okay,
You
great.
got to bribe
great.
them as you go.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that question from the audience. All right, so congratulations once again. We are not finished giving out prizes today, though, thankfully. So we're moving on to the next one. For our next category, I'd like to welcome to the stage Scott Tippin from Avnet. Come on up, Scott. And if you want to grab one of them. So Scott, right over here. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about AVNet's support of the ASU IO and what you all were looking for in a winner?
Yeah, we've been a part of this since the beginning, through the 7 years, and I'll echo what Cody had said earlier. I've been a judge in this, since the beginning, and every single year I'm always just taken aback by, 2, 3 presentations that I just can't believe that that's still a thing, and we really look at that. So one of the areas in which we look for is, first and foremost, what their why is. Matt talked about it. Second of all, are they making an impact? And most important for me, is it making an impact in an area that a lot of big companies aren't looking at? Give an example. I sat through her presentation last year and couldn't believe that we were still using a drive shaft that my 7-year-old makes snow cones with to do brain surgery. Right? So in large part, who we chose today did the same thing. We see a scalability towards not just what they're doing today, but the potential of what they can do for thousands, millions of different people.
Fabulous. Thank you so
Thanks.
much for that insight.
Mhm.
And we're going to stand up here while we play a video. And the winner is... Get that photo op. Right there, right in front of you. All right, I think we got some good ones. Thank you so much. So, now you know the drill. Sparky's setting up your backdrop for the live pitch that's about to take place. Take it away.
Thank you. We also have no idea what our slides have on them, but
Surprise.
if we have a clicker,
Do you need to make one?
otherwise we don't need the clicker. We can just
But
off
you can
limit.
have one. We have one just for you.
We'll see what happens here.
Okay, great. Oh, it's a laser pointer.
That's also fun.
Not what we're looking
we'll
for.
just there
Oh,
we
here we
go.
go.
And you know what? We'll probably just keep it on this screen to have fun. We won't be as gutsy as Nona. We'll just stick it there. So we are TILO. My name is Morgan. I'm the head of business operations at the company. And we are developing assistive walking devices that have integrated activity tracking technologies to better facilitate physical therapy. So our flagship product is the device that you can see on the screen right here. It is a novel rollator walker that has a posterior orientation. So it provides back support in order to both facilitate better posture, but also prevent those forward-facing falls that individuals will often have when the device is in front of them. And they're shifting their weight onto a set of wheels that can really easily shoot out in front of them. So what we did is really just flip the device around. Instead of it being in front of you, it's behind you. The backrest can actually flip down into a fully ergonomic seat, allowing it to serve as both a rollator walker, but also a transport chair or transfer chair with handlebars that you can see on that image can also rotate 180 degrees. And then what we were hearing from a lot of both individual users and then also physical therapists was that activity trackers like an Apple Watch don't work very well with individuals who are using rollator walkers because they have slower gait speed, limited arm movements. And so what we really did is made the frame an activity tracker in itself. So integrated into the frame are electronics such as rotary encoders and load cells. And what those can do is allow the device to passively measure speed, distance, and weight reliance, which then hooks up to a mobile application, allowing the device to serve as an activity tracker for the user population, but then also a remote patient monitoring tool for physical therapists. So right now we have a fully functional prototype that we're currently user testing in partner physical therapy clinics, mostly in Minnesota, and are working in partnership with the Minneapolis VA to apply for additional funding through SBIR grants through the national government.
Awesome. So I would love to hear, are there any questions from the audience that we'd like to ask the winners? This is like an awkward first date. Just, yeah. My friend Spencer. You're gonna make me walk all, come on.
Is there a reason why all of the companies have 2-syllable names so far?
Or 4 letters thus far.
We were told when we were naming the company to like make sure it had only one syllable.
Okay, there's a science.
Better able to
Sorry to
recognize
steal
it.
your thunder, sir.
Just curious how you guys want to spend this money.
Oh,
Yeah, definitely.
What's
going
next?
to Disneyland.
Yeah. I think majority of the money will be definitely going towards product development. As we've been learning, we've been working on this for about 2 years now. Hardware development is pretty expensive. Where we're going into now is manufacturing spaces, so working on some novel components of our device, working with manufacturers for injection molding services, CNC molding services, and tube bending. So that's definitely where we're going to be going. So as we continue, we're going to create tons of prototypes based off this one, iterations, what we learn, to really make sure that we're creating these devices that are most beneficial for our users.
Great answer.
Thanks for the question.
Wonderful. Any other questions?
One right behind.
Oh, right behind me. Way to be there.
Hi, why did you as individuals get excited about this problem?
Yeah, this project actually stemmed from my senior capstone. So I studied product design in my undergrad, and I grew up with a father with multiple sclerosis, which is a disease that, among many other things, causes mobility complications. So my whole life, I've been involved with that community, and I've seen the range of devices people use and the lack of attention they've received. So like the rollator walker, for example, is one of the devices we're innovating on right now. Hasn't really changed in the last 40 years. Yet we see an elderly population that's set to double in the next few decades. And there's still a rising rate of chronic illness as well. So we really want to give the technology that's used in commercial applications such as Fitbits, Apple Watches, and put it into a device that really has the potential to greatly improve someone's life.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Round of applause for our winners. All right.
You're good. I'll take that from you. Don't
Maybe you
forget
can
your check.
convert that into a snow jacket.
You know what? You're innovative. I see that in you too. Awesome, awesome. Well, we're not done yet. We've got 2 more prizes here today. So we're going to move on to our next one to keep the show going. I am pleased to welcome Dave Montero from Intel to present their water prize of 50,000 big ones. Come on up, Dave. And Dave, do you mind telling us why you picked this winner today without giving away the winner just yet?
You bet, my pleasure. I think a lot of it had to do with the team dynamics and the passion, because we know at early stages of this kind of development and then innovation, it takes time and perseverance and resilience to get through the process, right, to get to the end, right? And that was something that was really important to us. I think coupled with the fact that the end user benefit was there. We could see that through the conversations, through the elevator speech, all that was really evident to us. So I think they have a bright future.
So exciting. Well, we're ready to find out who it is, and the winner is... Good to go. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, you guys ready to do a live pitch? Well, you're going to, whether you are or not. So go.
Do you guys want to use your slides? The clicker is
Oh, it's on the chair. I'm sorry.
Hi everyone, we're Toxisense, and we're using genetic engineering to develop more sustainable and cost-effective tests for bacterial toxin contamination. So every single person on this planet, including you and I, relies on one animal, and it's the horseshoe crab. But why is this? Horseshoe crab blood is used to test a molecule called endotoxins, and endotoxins are the sickness-causing molecule from bacteria. When they get in our body, they can cause severe effects, including fever, septic shock, and death. In fact, endotoxins are the leading cause of death in hospitals annually, causing over 11 million deaths. Because of this, the government mandates that all medical products, as well as drinking water, must be tested for endotoxins to ensure the safety of users. In fact, almost any medical product you and I have ever used, such as vaccines, IV needles, or surgical tools, has likely been tested for endotoxin contamination. Now, the current test that relies on horseshoe crab blood is effective, but it has two major problems. It's expensive and it's unsustainable. Every year, over 100 million samples are tested for endotoxin contamination using this method. And to do this, over 500,000 horseshoe crabs are taken from the ocean and bled each year. Surprisingly, just 1 gallon, just this much of the horseshoe crab blood, costs $60,000. It's in fact the second most expensive liquid on Earth. That was crazy to hear when I first learned about it too. And because of this, there has been a 30% decline in horseshoe crab populations. The current technique is decimating the coastal ecosystem globally. So at ToxySense, we wanted to develop a better solution. We genetically engineered this plant to luminesce at different intensities based on how much endotoxin is applied to it. Our test is not only sustainable, but it's just 5% of the cost of the industry standard. So how does it work? It's pretty simple in just 3 main steps. We first grow our genetically engineered plants, which reach maturity in just 2 weeks. We then make a solution of our engineered plant cells and then ship them in a test tube to the user. The user simply adds their sample to the test tube, and the test tube glows at different brightnesses, indicating how much bacterial toxin is in the sample.
Now our test is really exciting because of 3 key advantages. The first of which is that ToxySense is 18 times cheaper than the industry standard. Second, we have a 1.8% standard error rate compared to the current test, which has an error rate of 50 to 200%. And finally, we're saving these horseshoe crabs that have been around for millions of years. The population has been going down steadily over the last 30 years due to this test, and we really want to save these animals and transition to a plant-based test.
So we have two huge global market opportunities. The first is in the biopharmaceutical space, as well as the water testing space. Right now, we're in a deep stage of R&D to get our product through finish R&D and get it to clinical trials. Once we get there, we're able to get into a medtech incubator, as well as pilot with the Philadelphia Water Testing Department, which is where we're from. After that, we leverage our connections within the water testing industry and go to market, getting FDA approval as well as USP approval. Our team is made of 4 sophomores from the University of Pennsylvania right now. We have diverse operating experiences. Arvind, my co-founder, started this in 2017 at the start of high school. It's been 5 years since then, and we started the company last year. But more than that, our team extends beyond just us 4. We have a team of rock stars around us, from PhDs in plant biology with over 5 decades of research experience to MDs of current medtech companies excited to pilot this technology with their startups. And we've come from the Penn ecosystem, and now we're here at ASU using your resources as well. So how will we use this funding? We're going to use this funding to catalyze our R&D process, achieve 100% of our patent process target, and most importantly, boost team excitement by 200%. So our grand vision is that we want every drug, every medical device, and every source of drinking water to be tested with our product using ToxySense. Thank you.
Nice pitch. Great work. Hang out just a second because there's a really good possibility that we have questions from the audience.
First
Tristan, what do you
question, you guys are from Philadelphia. Who are you cheering for on Sunday?
You know who.
Oh,
yeah, go Birds, go Birds.
Caw. Questions?
Oh.
You guys did such a great job pitching that no one has a question. You guys were the only ones that seemed ready to pitch your
Oh, there's
slides
one
today.
right there. Yep.
Oh, see, I just knew I had to let it marinate. Awesome. Here you go.
Hi there, my name's Graham from the Curvature team. Great presentation. I'm just curious, how has it taken so long to find a replacement for horseshoe crabs? And how were you able to kind of come to a alternative?
One big reason is that it's technologically pretty complicated to detect a biological molecule compared to, let's say, detecting a chemical in water. Because there's not a simple chemical reaction that you can run and have a clear result from that. You need a biological system that can sense these toxins and have a response to that. And that's why for 3 decades and upwards of that, the only FDA-approved method has been the horseshoe crab-based test. They attempted to develop a synthetic version a few years ago, but it didn't receive FDA approval because they only copied one protein from the horseshoe crab's blood, which didn't fully capture the horseshoe crab's response to these toxins. meaning the FDA wasn't confident in that test. And so where we come in is that since we're engineering a new biological system that has evolved over millions of years to detect these toxins, we are more confident that the FDA would look favorably upon the system. And along with our advantages such as our lower error rate and improved usability as well, we think that we bring substantial improvements over what has been done already in the status quo.
Thank you. All right, one more question for that one more hand.
Great presentation. I was curious how easy it is for the user to detect, like whether it's a yes or a no in terms of, because I know you said it fluoresces, but at different levels, and how easy is it to tell? How do you tell?
Yeah, so we've kind of built that into the test. Right now we have two different testing methods. One is for the biopharmaceutical industry. There you want a quantifiable measurement as you understand how much endotoxin is in your product from that. Whereas for the water testing industry, we want something that's more user-friendly. So we're actually using a pH-based strip technology as well as a novel gene expression pathway within our plant. And that's a simple colorimetric change. So it's a qualitative assessment, which is more user-friendly. So I guess two different use cases, and then hence we have two different measurements of how much endotoxin is in your sample.
Well done. Thank you so much. All right, Bianca, let's give these guys a round of applause. It's time for the big final prize.
Thank you so much to Dave and to Intel for that award. Congratulations, Toxisense. I'm so glad that makes sense to you because it does a little bit to me. All right, so last but certainly not least, I am so excited to announce our final prize of $100,000. Please help me welcome Tom Prescott, who will be virtually presenting his Pay It Forward prize sponsored by eSeed. Tom, where are you at?
I am virtually. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Welcome. Tom, do you want to tell us a little about your thinking for this award and choosing a winner?
Maybe those are two separate things. Let's parse them out.
Let's do it.
The journey to get here, like all these entrepreneurs, has taken years. 20 plus years I've been coming in, interacting with the Fulton School and the students and faculty, trying to stimulate entrepreneurial activity with the insight that you can read about great entrepreneurs and businesses that have been built, but it's very much experiential. And everybody in this room today that's been sweat and blood and tears understands how hard it is to stand one of these things up. And it's life-changing, I think, as Cody said earlier, for everybody around it. So it was that insight. Maybe 8 or 9 years ago, we decided to formalize that more with the eSeed challenge to stimulate competition, pitches, companies, and I think there's been a convergence in the Valley. The startup environment is fundamentally different than 20 years ago, where it was very backwards. You can look in every direction and see progress. So being a little part of that is satisfying, but the genesis for this was Pay It Forward. And wherever the arcs of each of these founders and their teams go, success, is not measured just by money. It's how many people can impact the lives. The thought was just, you're going to have a chance to do what we're doing here, paying it forward financially in time and treasure. And if we multiply that, man, world can be a better place. So that's where this effort has taken us. We're thrilled to be giving this prize today. And there's never been a harder time in the startup environment than there has been the last year or two. And risk capital has been hard to find, and most venture types are acting more like private equity investors and want value and no risk. So we hope that this $100,000 of non-dilutive financing can really help this company accelerate. And, everybody in the room, there's probably 1,000 other little startups that have already given up. And yet these 20 or so teams have continued to persist and keep on. So we all challenge them and cheer for them and say, keep the faith. This team has kept the faith. They're tracking towards solving a really big, step one, a really big problem with many millions of patients suffering from a miserable disease state. And I'm not going to announce it, but I'd love you to roll the video so we can celebrate their progress and pray for their success.
Let's play it.
Sparky, stand by. We got tears. They're coming.
Oh, congratulations. We're so proud of you. All right, we're going to do a photo op real fast.
700 photos later.
Thank you so much, Sparky. Now let's leave the stage to our lucky winner here so that we can hear all about her solution.
First of all, thank you so much. As you can see, I'm a little emotional. As was mentioned, I've been working on this for a long time, and we put a lot of hard work into this. So thank you. Really, really appreciate this opportunity. But let me gather myself, and then I'll pitch the company to you.
Do you need some?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Just give me like 1 second.
Oh, you're good.
We call that an emotional lap. Give it an emotional lap.
In case you don't want to do just one slide, here's the clicker for
Oh,
you.
thank you. All
But
right.
take your time. We're ready whenever you are.
All right. Is this, okay, great. Then go back. Okay. We are Inia Biosciences, and we are empowering patients to treat their pill bottles for a remote control. So imagine waking up every day with itchy, flaky scalp that is so severe that affects your daily life and even your self-esteem. That's what millions of patients experience every day who suffer from psoriasis. Inia Biosciences is currently developing a wearable, non-invasive device to tackle the immune system. What that means is that we can actually create a next-generation smart device to reduce inflammation, and the first indication that we're going after is scalp psoriasis. We're going after this because for these patients, the existing drugs are not effective. Furthermore, 50% of these patients actually don't want to even take these drugs because the side effect profile does not outweigh the benefits. So Inia's device is based on decades of work in the bioelectronic space, tackling the neuroinflammatory reflex. In fact, interestingly, scientists have discovered that when you stimulate a particular nerve, you can actually influence immune cells of the body. So billion-dollar companies like Galvani and Setpoint Medical has then taken this science and created these implantable cuffs around these particular nerves. And Inia is actually now using focused ultrasound to achieve just that, but non-invasively. Our device is a patent-pending device, 3 patents that are pending. It is specific. It allows us to target the particular nerve that controls inflammation, which is a splenic nerve. You might actually not know what the spleen is. I actually didn't know much about it until I started this company. One of the reasons is that because, well, it's just a huge lymph organ. It houses a number of immune cells of the body. Not so interesting if you look at what the rest of the organs do. But it turns out that you can actually achieve a systemic response with a targeted approach by tackling this particular organ. So with our device, with just 5 minutes of daily stimulation, you can achieve results that are similar to these existing drugs out on the market, but without the side effects. Additionally, what we have also found is that patients want to actually track their progress. So we created an app that allows us to do remote monitoring and also physician communication in order to tailor their treatment regimen. So in terms of the particular area that we're going after, eventually we want to go after the 125 million patients affected by psoriasis globally. And even beyond that, things like autoimmune diseases like inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and even beyond. But for our current beachhead, we're going after scalp psoriasis because for these patients, existing drugs are not effective, and also this particular market is amenable to medical devices as they're already using UV light therapy to be treated for their disease. In terms of business model, we're going after a prescription and subscription approach for the device and the digital health app. There's also a revenue stream from licensing as well as a preclinical device that we are co-developing with Fujifilm in order to distribute this type of device to academic centers. Among the current rising landscape of bioelectronic devices, how we stand out is the fact that we are a wearable, and we're the only one targeted psoriasis, and also we have a patent pending technology that allows us to target that particular nerve every single time, so that patients can take this home without the worry of off-target side effects. So in terms of where we are, we've made a number of strategic partnerships, including Fujifilm. We started a conversation with GE Healthcare. We secured 3 patents and have a robust portfolio. We have a 2.0 prototype. It's actually stuck in the US borders. It was shipped over from the UK. So I actually brought my 1.0 prototype today. And we also have a prototype for the app. We have interviewed over 100 stakeholders, and from those we've recruited experts as well as KOLs to help us design our clinical studies. And right now we are raising funds. I've been told I always put a fund raise slide when you pitch, so here it is. We're raising $2 million to conduct those studies, and we will be clinical trial ready with this money. Of course, we can't be here without the support of our amazing group of advisors. We have world-class advisors who have experience bringing med tech devices to the market, including the former CTO of the Covidien Group, which was acquired by Medtronic. We have a very international team, as you can see by the logos, and we are a team of female co-founders. I'm Shen Ning. I am an MD PhD from Boston University, as well and also Mass General. I have 8 years of experience doing neurostimulation as well as drug delivery at the Langer Lab. My co-founder is a trained biomedical engineer from Denmark with a master's from Yale, PhD from Oxford, and MBA as well. She has 12 years of experience really running preclinical and clinical trials across the US and UK, and she has a proven track record of bringing an idea to implementation. We're also supported by our clinical lead, Deep Shah, who is a neuroscientist as well as radiologist. There's Osman, who is also a neuroscientist and physician, and our technical lead or engineer and a former professor of Brigham and Women's, Sai Chun-ten. And today, we invite you to join our medical revolution in harnessing the power of bioelectronic medicine to shift the paradigm of care. Thank you.
You did it, and you already won the money. That's like the most no sweat pitch ever, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You're welcome to grab your check on the way out, but before you do, we're gonna take some questions from the audience. Tristan.
Anybody have any questions? Oh, I see a hand.
Hi, so I'm Max from Acorn Genetics, and we actually ran into each other last year at Rice.
Yes,
what has changed since then? Because I know you had V1 then, working on different things. What has been the process over the last year?
Yeah, we actually used the money from Rice to develop the current prototype. So that was absolutely incredibly helpful for us to be able to develop and demonstrate that this proof of concept is not just something we came up in our heads, but is very much feasible. And also we've really conducted a lot of interviews. You might remember from Rice, we actually pivoted from organ rejection to psoriasis because of the many feedbacks that we kept hearing from investors we reflected on, one of which was, well, organ rejection is really a hard market to go into, especially as a first indication with a product that is a completely novel modality. So we decided to pivot to psoriasis, which then we found to be actually even bigger market with just as much need as the organ rejection sector. But of course, we have that in the back of our minds, and we have built a pipeline incorporating organ rejection into our future.
Great question. Do we have one or two more from the audience today? Last chance. Oh, we got one right over here.
Can you come meet me on the side? We'll meet in the middle, little belly button action.
Oh.
Hi, this is Alex. I would like to ask you this question. So what motivated you to focus on this particular problem? And I know a lot of people go through this pain. I've seen people around me, but yeah, what's your motivation to focus on this particular problem?
That's a great question. So I do understand that there's a lot of products in this space for pain, all of which are targeting the nerves directly. But because we have a modality that can actually reach deeper into the body, we then actually can achieve impact on inflammation altogether. So that's kind of a unique selling point from our standpoint. For me personally, I'm really passionate about this because I have skin disease myself, not psoriasis, but eczema, which also involves a lot of itching. So I completely understand the pain, and I would definitely use my own product once it's out.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Can we give a round of applause to our final winner of $100,000? Honestly, I am so excited that we were able to support these 4 businesses and all of these other entrepreneurs here today. I'm impressed beyond words with your talent, your innovations. I'm hopeful for the future. As a mother of 2 little kids, I feel really confident with the world you're building for them, so thank you.
I agree. They've put in a ton of work, and the prizes are so, so well deserved. Spending the day with all of these innovators gives me hope for the future, and now all that's left to do is go change the world.
No pressure. I'd love to, at this time, invite back all the finalists to come up onto the stage for one big happy family group photo. Come on down. Everybody, step right up, step right up. All right, bring it in, bring it in. Create some height. Come on, everybody. Bring it in, bring it in.
All right, we might need a 3rd line in the front.
Our listening skills. There we go, there we go. Yep, you get it.
There you go. Got some sorority squats up front. Come on out.
Excellent. Social impact on 3. 1, 2, 3. No?
Oh, nice try.
Awesome. Great work, great work. And then let's go ahead and leave just the final 4 teams that won prizes today on the stage.
Thank you all.
Thank everybody who participated.
Wonderful job.
I can't wait to see the world that you build.
Oh yeah, I'm in the way. Nice job, everybody. Do we have everybody?
Now watch this. All right, smile like you won some money. Sparky, great work, great work.
All right, thank you everybody. Great photos. If we could take our seats, we are just going to say a couple more things and then we'll dismiss you all.
Awesome. Everybody, that concludes today's show. Thank you once again to all of our generous sponsors, without whom this event would not be possible. Congratulations to our winners, and thank you to the founders for participating today. I want to thank everybody here behind the scenes who have run the tech and the video and every single ingredient that made things amazing. We invite you to stay for a chance to meet the founders in the courtyard. And thank you to everybody who've joined us on live stream, who've offered us questions on live stream. Thank you so much for participating even from home. I'm Tristan.
I'm Bianca.
And this was the ASU I/O. Thank you from the 7th Annual Innovation Open, where the next generation of problem solvers are empowered to turn their dreams into a reality.